Supervisors for, oh, I get some feedback. Oh, Kenny's on Zoom.
Should be on mute.
I just realized I never made my second motion to direct staff to amend the water control plan and bring that to the August meeting.
What do we need an actual motion or can we just do it by general consensus?
It's just direction of staff, right? And then the resolution comes back. Okay. Do we need, so maybe you want to ask that during the workshop, that I don't know, to get consensus for the record.
Well, I felt like we had consensus on that, right? I think we're good. I mean, we have no choice, so, yeah, I think we're good, right, Mary?
I think so,
Okay.
actually, because you have the permit, and that was a condition of the permit.
Right.
So
Right.
that's the direction I'm gonna accept.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. If you please join me in the pledge, and then if you don't mind, we're going to do this one more time. If everybody will remain standing, being that this is a different meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us please take a moment of silent prayer for the horrific assassination attempt of former President Trump, for the loss of a father, Mr. Compatore, a volunteer firefighter, husband, and a friend, a man who shielded his family and laid down his own life, making the ultimate sacrifice for his loved ones. For the two others who were struck, still in critical condition, and those who witnessed this heinous act, please pray for our great nation, and God bless America. Okay, so we are here tonight to talk about the renewal of the service provider agreement for the Acreage Athletic League. And with that, I am going to, welcoming remarks. Do we need that again?
No.
No, we don't think so. We don't.
No.
Are we good? Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here, and I'm glad we have this opportunity.
We
Yeah,
should.
yeah.
Okay, so let's do roll call. Thank you, Scarlett.
Candy,
Frank Fallon.
Mary Viator,
Keith Giovanna.
Elizabeth Accomando.
Trisha Farrell,
Patty Argue,
Kenny Lawrence.
Burgess Hanson.
Miriam Heiser,
Jeff Sisolak.
Brandy Hogg,
Wendy Rollins.
Jeff Grabson.
Thank you, everyone.
Just
Okay.
for the
Yes.
record, I also have Miss Mary Cordes here, just from a risk management insurance aspect as well in the audience.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lawrence now with his presentation.
Good evening, everyone. So I kind of want to start this off real quick and give a little update as to what the district was looking for. And then I want to have Wendy and the Athletic League kind of explain real fast what they were looking for. We have met with them several times over the last few months to try to go over some of the details and some of everybody's concerns. At this point, the district is looking to limit our losses and or mitigate any kind of issues that we could have in the future and kind of tighten up the contract itself in a whole. So I did do some deep diving on the background of the Athletic League, because when you build a contract, I want to know exactly that that contract is going to be structured to the way the league is structured. We will go through some of that here shortly, but at this time, I will hand it over to Wendy for some comments from the Athletic League.
Okay, Wendy.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We received the draft service provider agreement. I mean, I sent an email with, I think, some of not concerns, but more just kind of maybe clarifications or whatnot, and some of these items, and maybe some of these items also proposals of rather than we can go, I mean, line by line if you want per my email, but overall, I know maybe Jess over here has maybe additional comments in addition to my email. But I think overall, I think the draft agreement overall was pretty good in my eyes. Just with those little items that I emailed about, and I don't know if Jeff has any more things that he would like to go over, but do you want to go line by line or?
So some of the concerns that we spoke about at some of the meetings were they're looking for exclusivity, sponsorship benefits and things like that. These items were taken in consideration with where we're going with this in the future. At this time, actually, we can go over those items as well, but that's the more detailed part of the actual contract. What I'm thinking we do tonight is if everybody opens up their little binder, on the left-hand side, there's a worksheet. This is going to kind of act as like a guide towards the actual contract itself, so we can go item by item and confirm if that's what the board would like to do, or if the athletic league has got any objections to it, we can take notes to this now. That way we can come back and actually solidify the actual contract itself in detail. At this point, I'm going to share some of what I have found and some of the concerns that we have that we would need to address. So if you open up the binder to page 1, tab 1, I apologize. Back in 1995, when the athletic league was actually created, the principal address was the Acreage Community Park. So some of the address and everything else being tied to the district brought up concerns that there's a direct tie to the district right now. And what we're trying to do is create enough separation there to where if there was an issue, we're not looking at losing our sovereign immunity or any problems like that in the future. So I have given this to the athletic league. They are aware of it. And what we've requested is that some of these items be updated and removed. You noticed on tab 1, the principal address from there. If we go to tab 2.
Through the chair. Kenny, that was the original filing, but is that the existing place of business that's registered?
It is still being used. So I have different tabs here that have different, including like
The
current stuff.
6701,
Yeah,
okay.
and there is still stuff in there that has to be adjusted. So on tab,
What is the 7040 Seminole Pratt? Is that your box, your post office?
Yeah,
box?
that's the PO box.
Okay,
So Kenny, what would you recommend? Because that principal address is kind of just like where we conduct operations.
I would suggest that you guys use the other one so that there's a definite separation of the two.
What do you mean other one? Like
The
the
address
PO
that you have
box?
there.
I don't think by law they can. They
The-
have to have a physical address.
There's an address that you guys use for your tax filings. I would recommend using that one for right now.
Do you have that in another document
I
by
do,
chance?
and I'm going to share that one. So the concern that I found with this direct tie, and we'll go into it under the records law, it kind of creates a partnership between the district and the athletic league. And that partnership, in my opinion, and legal can kind of clarify it, may go beyond just the records law. It might actually be like a direct link to us. You'll notice in one of the other forms that I actually have voting rights in there as the director. That could cause an issue to where you guys are definitely a partner, and that would almost be like an athletic department of the district, and may actually be subject to our policies as well. So there's some areas that we definitely have to clean up with the actual contract itself. So with this filing from 1995, you'll notice principal place of business in the mailing address with both the administration building. That kind of ties us in as well. So if somebody was to serve paperwork, it would come to the district on behalf of you guys. Tab number 3.
I think if somebody were to serve, it would go to our registered
Registered
agent,
agent,
yeah.
which is under Wendy's name.
But it's still, you'll notice that a lot of this paperwork, including current stuff, has the district tied in different areas. So what I'm looking to do is try to clean all.
Just remove it all.
Just clean it all
Okay.
up, basically. So it's straightforward. There's no question there. So
through the chair, I don't think any amendments you change to the today is going to be reflected in the original filing documents. That's the issue. I mean, you're not going to change, what you pulled off here is the historical documents that are on Sunbiz, but even if it's been changed today, that's why.
I mean,
asked
that's
if
even the
it's in a
current
different
filing,
way.
even if like currently, like I never understood that we're not supposed to use that. I felt like that was the principal place where we do operations. So
But
like
what
that
I'm
would be
saying is that
principal.
even if you change it, it's still.
Right, it's gonna
not
be a go
amend it
forward
here.
change.
It's always
It-
gonna be there.
It'll always be there in history. So like even if you file an amendment, it'll show this amendment to your 95 filing, but it'll
Correct.
still show the historical original
Correct.
document.
There is other options, and I don't think you guys have to go that way. I think with legal involved, we can clean this up.
Mhm.
You could actually create another 501(c) or C4 and transfer the funds into that and have it start fresh. But we'll have to kind of sit with Frank over the next few weeks and kind of go through this. If you guys go to tab number 3, and this is where things get a little bit interesting. On the second page, at the top of it, you know, everybody's got highlighted stuff. You have obviously the admin office being added in there as well. But the part that concerns me is Article 5 at the bottom. The very last line of that basically says that the athletic league is a subcommittee of the AAL. And the way I see that is you guys would actually be falling under the ALA's contract in that there wouldn't be a separate contract. Or I don't even know if we could go into a separate contract being a subcommittee. And you'd end up falling under the programs part of the ALA's contract, basically.
So Ken, what's,
And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, so what's the difference between tab number 3 and then the later articles of incorporation by the AAL, which was revised in 2021?
So
Is it still?
tab number 3 is the original file. This, I haven't seen any changes to this particular article. Doesn't mean it hasn't been updated. It's one that would definitely be looked at.
So we need to confirm that this has been revised where they're no longer a subcommittee of the ALA.
Correct,
That's where you're going.
correct.
Have you talked to the ALA about this?
I haven't yet,
I think.
but I have seen.
Oh, Kenny, I don't remember anything like that in any of the readings that I've done. I've read it probably 100 times
Yeah.
and I don't think that's currently in there, but we can.
Yeah. I
Share with
did
you,
electronically, I just
version.
tried to do a search. It's not, I don't think it's in there.
All
I
right,
think that's
Good.
been removed.
What
okay.
about, through the chair?
Mhm.
What about, because the first line of this, the general membership is composed of parents of players and participants who are currently registered within the last year for last registration.
Mhm.
Is that, so do we need to worry about that too?
This is an old document. This is
Wait.
not our current bylaws
Which,
and articles of
which section
incorporation.
is
This
it?
has been.
It's Article
this is all
5. It's the same
Article
article.
5.
Okay, the
Same thing.
same line.
I don't-
Yeah, it's the first line on that article.
Through the chair. If you're doing an amendment of the articles or the bylaws, are they required to be filed with Sunbiz or?
Yes.
Yes, articles of amendment.
Okay,
Yes,
so you've never filed articles of amendment?
we
They
have
and you
filed
have.
articles of amendment.
So are these items in the articles of amendment?
These items are gonna be, we're getting to those. We
Oh.
have more current ones in there.
Okay.
So I did a history of everything from the very beginning and then kind of brought it a little more current. And that's where we're kind of going to. So tab number 5, if we go under. You don't have to kind of flip through the pages. It's labeled as page 17. It's like the second page of tab 5. It's highlighted.
On page 5 or section 4? Section 4?
Tab 4?
It's tab 4, my bad. I apologize. So this was one of the ones that were updated. And the item that's highlighted basically gives the parks director voting rights within their committee or their organization. It's another area that I feel that could be removed.
Sure. Sorry.
And then if we go over to tab 5, you've got the latest filings, basically, or one of the updated filings that still have ACP as the principal place of business. Another area that should probably be cleaned up just for risk management purposes. Tab number 6 is just the 2022 tax filings. I did this more or less for my background to how you guys are structured so that we can build the contract around that, confirming that you guys are a 501(c)(4). It also gave us the description of what the athletic league is listed under, because we'll need that for the contract too. tab number 7 with the articles of incorporation. I didn't really see anything in there that was of concern. But tab number 8 did have a couple items. So tab number 8 under page 9, that's highlighted. Goes back into the director basically having voting rights. And the same thing with page 16. These were the most updated bylaws, basically. This is what's currently in there.
We can amend.
So,
Yeah, they can, amend it, which is what we're trying to.
right,
Yeah.
but you're not finding anything that shows that Article 5 in that first 1995 article was ever revoked.
No, not at this point. I was basically looking for things that tied the district directly to the way the organization was structured to see if we had to structure a contract around that. And these are the items that basically popped up quickly. So under tab 10,
We don't need to go to 9.
no, some of it's extra in there for reference. I have a lot more that I could have put in there for reference. But the reason why I was mentioning it earlier with the way it was structured and me being a part of it with voting rights is a concern under number 2 with agency. This looking more like a partnership and an actual branch of the district. So like I was saying before, this might actually be something where it would fall under a totally different ballgame other than just the records law that we would have to follow. This could be policy law too, or policy. So that kind of brings you guys up to date.
So I just, through the chair, just on that, I apologize because we kind of just jumped right into this because we're running late from the last meeting. The reason why we want to try to clear this up is, again, like for instance, we don't want them to fall under like the procurement policy because they want to go out and buy equipment or concessions, all of that. So this isn't like, oh, you did something wrong. We're just
Right.
trying to get this cleaned up. So there's
We're actually tying their hands with what's in here. which we wanna
We could
untie,
potentially be, we
Right.
don't know that we are, and they
Right,
could
but
have
could.
revision, but that's what we're trying to work through, so.
Through the chair.
Mhm.
Is this the first time that you all are seeing or hearing about this?
About the addresses and things of that nature, yes.
Yeah.
We actually had a meeting with Jeff and we gave copies of it.
Well, other than that, but yeah,
This is
So
the-
was
yeah.
that pointed out to you at that meeting?
how long ago was this? I mean, the
This was
first,
this was the meeting that we had at Nicole Steve.
Yes,
And I'd like to.
that was the first time.
So have you
Which
guys
was-
had a chance to look and review your records in terms of amendments to your bylaws?
So in order for us, or the procedures that we go through to change our bylaws is that at the previous meeting that we had, we have our monthly meetings first Tuesday of the month. So what is this, July? So at our July meeting, we announced that at the next meeting, we would be updating our bylaws so that, and we put it on our Facebook or whatever, so that it's advertised, so that the public can come and comment. But in anticipation for needing to make some changes, that we went ahead and made that motion at our last meeting, so that our first meeting in August, so our plan would be to meet at our closed meeting for July and go over all the, changes, make the updates, and then present that at our open meeting in August.
Okay, and then can you just clarify for me the current bylaws that you recognize as what's adopted and is the 2021 one?
That's
in tab 8?
yeah, and tab 7 is your articles of incorporation, tab 8 is your bylaws.
Okay, and were those two filed
Yeah.
with Sunbiz?
With the amendment that you pulled up, those were both filed with it, but they only present the amendment on the Sunbiz,
Okay, all
whatever, so
right, I
on
just
their
want to make
website.
sure I'm looking at the most current.
those are the most current that were filed.
7 and 8.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I have a question for Frank. So on the issue of the place of business, have you opined on that where it's registered as the place of business being Acreage Community Park?
Well, it's kind of a policy decision, I think, for the board on how you in terms of the agreement.
Well, I'm asking for your legal opinion because Mr. Lawrence has inferred that there's a legal issue with that. So I'd like that fully explained.
I think the issue has to do with liability.
Okay, but what is the liability?
Well, basically, you're treating the entity as if it were a branch of Indian Trail, an integral unit of Indian Trail government.
Okay, so you
It's just
agree,
evident, it's just evident, may not be that way in fact, but it's evidence that there's no distinction between a private organization and a governmental body. And that
Okay,
has
so-
implications for the liability of the district.
so if that were amended, even though it shows historically on these documents, where does that leave us?
Well, I think the question is
In the
what's the
future.
current, not what the history was. I mean, you
Okay.
can demonstrate that you corrected the situation if someone raised it and if there were litigation, it's something happened, right, that resulted in litigation. The district's gonna get sued and the organization's gonna get sued. Then the question is, between the two of them, who's gonna have to pay the price for on their insurance, our insurance policy for their insurance policy? So
Okay.
you get into that kind of a discussion. So you can demonstrate that, you changed it, that maybe historically something was in the record, but that's not what the current rules are.
Okay,
Through the chair. Ms. Heiser.
Yeah, and that would be something that I would like to consult with Aegis too, because when we apply for our special permits through Aegis for our events, and we have talked about it before, that I would consult with them because when we apply for our events, the event itself, yes, for example, it is a good community park, but we would put our address here because that's where we apply, but the event itself is over at Acre Community Park. So there is some hard separation with it, but we can call them and find out. And even with your own insurance too, maybe consult with them what they recommend you guys put on there. Because they will probably guide you on that. What they would recommend, because that's what we do. I talk to them on those parts and they recommend do this on liability purposes.
And just through the chair, just quickly, maybe Ms. Heiser can expand upon it, because I know you've had a couple of conversations. The reason why this is a concern that we at least want to look at it is we don't want to do something where we would potentially lose our sovereign immunity. Thank you. So that's why we.
So I get what you're saying, but I think I don't know if we're one and the same. When we're holding an event there, we're still holding it under Indian Trails, whereas when they're doing sports and whatnot, or practices, games, we need to make sure there's a separation between
Right,
us. So I think that there's a definite.
Yeah, that's why I would recommend that talking to their liability insurance and even with others, like double check and see what the options are and So.
For the registered principal place
Yeah.
of business.
Yeah, just
To make
just
sure
to see
you're-
where, because I know, I completely understand what you're doing, because that's where you conduct your business.
Mhm.
You are out there. I completely understand what the thought process is. That makes sense in that aspect. You're not playing football in your house, but it's technically a district property, it's the district's property, so it's under the district insurance, it's under the district liability insurance. So first and foremost, it is the district. And then the way it works, and it would be the additional insured, and like we do when we do the events, and so it could get dicey, like what Mr. Payne was saying, there's all this wonderful insurance bingo. So we will have a wonderful afternoon calling insurance, right?
Through the chair.
Yes.
She's.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's fine.
That's okay.
Just going
I was
through
just
my
looking
notes.
this over, and on number 7 tab, which Delta got the greatest article. Article 5 is principal office. And have the criminal flat with the address there. That the same as Article 5 in the old one, where y'all changed the address there?
This is our PO box, so that principal office is just referring to a PO box. Yeah, it's the mailboxes, et cetera, at the public shopping center up there. So like, is that where we would put our principal residence?
Whose address is that, the 61st Lane? Cause it's a home.
What are you referring to?
So the address that's on your. On this filing, I think it's the not-for-profit corporation annual report.
Tab two.
It has an address on there. Whose address is that? On
295.
tab 2,
Tab
That's
two
the
is from,
91.
yeah, that's from 1990.
That was from 1996.
yeah,
Isn't that?
So
That's
it's-
our.
no, it's a home.
134.
It's a home. I looked it up on property.
Yeah, it's a
That's-
home.
I have.
That's
347.
admin building.
That's the admin building.
The principal place of business that's listed is the administration. building.
So it's still our address. So
Yeah.
wouldn't that still keep us tied?
But that's what I was asking.
Yeah, that
Like
would
the
still-
original Documents.
Right,
That's why I was wondering but this might be only.
okay.
May I raise just a question? AAL, I understand, is a not-for-profit corporation. There is a statute that deals with not-for-profit corporations. We don't represent not-for-profit corporations. I can't give AAL legal advice on how to organize themselves under the statutes that govern that entity. I can only comment on their relationship through an agreement or through a permit with the district. So I'm in making some of these suggestions. They really need to consult an independent attorney who practices in the area of not-for-profit corporate law. Basically, there's a separate statute, and I am not an expert on the not-for-profit corporation law of the state of Florida.
Through the chair. But just to clarify again, tab 7, the articles of incorporation that state they've been revised in 2021, those have not been registered with Sunbiz. Or they have been, they've been
These
filed.
have been.
Yeah, okay, so to concur with what Scarlett is saying, in that, under Article 5, it says principal office, the 7040 Seminole Pratt Whitney, the post office box. So it is not, according to that amendment, tied to the district office now.
Well,
Because,
just to clarify, the annual report that we file with Sunbiz has that registered, has our principal place of business as that 6701. I never contemplated that making an association like a partnership or anything. I do the filing. I'm pretty sure I did not change that principal address because I interpreted it as the place where we conduct our business. or
okay, so
whatever.
you're saying your filings are different,
Our-
but
Our current, yes, the articles of incorporations that are filed in there are different than this principal address. So principal address, principal office, I
Okay.
guess, never made the cross reference, so,
okay,
but they
you
are
just need to clean that
inconsistent.
up.
They are inconsistent now, so.
right,
I could submit an amendment to our annual report filing and update that
right.
principal address, and I could use the PO box.
And I think to Frank's point, I think what he's saying is that you might want to seek legal advice about that, just relating to your nonprofit organization.
Okay,
To Burgess's point that, you know, is there some prohibition about using a PO box? So I would,
we will update it, and we have counsel who we can consult to
Right, okay.
get that advice, and so we'll leave it as we'll update it so that it's not that conflict.
right.
And if
okay,
it needs to be changed again in our bylaws to be consistent, we'll do that. as well.
Right.
Should be consistent across the board.
Yes,
Go ahead, Burgess.
Through the chair. And you're all right removing the 2-1, it's under tab 8, I think, 9 or wherever it is about the district parks director having the ability to determine who your chairperson is.
I don't think that's exactly what it's interpreting, but yes, we
Yes.
will remove the
Yeah,
Indian
just-
Trails Association,
Any word is that stated?
the that has to do with the voting procedures for any board seats. And
Yeah, you don't want that stuff in that. You just saw our last meeting. so.
yeah, no, we can remove that. I think we've always had that in there as a courtesy so that you could be involved in that decision. Technically, there's not necessarily that many people who step up and run for office. So that seat or that your participation has not been invoked. I think it was 2011 or 2012 or something like that, the last time that actually came into effect. That's when we had two people running for a seat, as opposed to if one person runs and it's uncontested, then we don't involve a committee, we don't involve the Indian Trails. So that hasn't happened in a long time, just so you have the history.
Yeah.
But we could certainly remove it.
Yes. go ahead.
So the articles of incorporation that you found that are filed and stamped, where did you get those from?
Online.
Online,
Your
online.
son bids.
Under
Your
Sunbiz,
Sunbiz.
correct.
But when you
Everything's
go into
Sunbiz or
Sunbiz, you
IRS.
don't see these articles of incorporation and bylaws
Well, they are there.
revised. Well, my concern, my question is because I'm seeing a stamp on these, I don't see a stamp on these.
On the 2021.
Correct.
Yeah,
There's no official filing stamp.
I think the original articles that you file with Sunbiz all get posted in there and they get the stamp. And then if you file an amendment to those, then you just get that amendment page and that's what they show on their website, because I've
Okay,
looked
so
at
it
it.
shows the amendment page to that.
this page, right?
November.
Share the screen. The last amendment that was there was 2015. So when we view that, that's the tab. That is tab 3.
That's tab 3.
Uh,
So that's what we're looking at, that,
no, that's tab 4.
that's the,
That's the last one that's actually available to you.
all right, so there's nothing for 21.
I don't see any.
Where did you
Just
get the
there's
2021?
annual reports.
That's, yeah, where did you get 21 from?
It was actually emailed to me.
From the AAL.
So, but we don't
Everything
see
else.
anything on Sunbiz.
It just shows the amendment. Can you click on
Yeah,
it?
but it's showing from 2015, not 21.
Yeah, they don't, there's nothing.
There's no
They're
amendment
just
for
annual
21, so
reports.
these are not filed.
Awesome.
Okay, so can we verify on the 2021? You're saying that you did file an amendment.
I thought that's what he was showing me when I saw this thing.
Okay.
So,
All right,
But they don't have that thing for your 21.
I mean, if
And then for your articles of incorporation or your bylaws.
if it hasn't been filed, I mean, this can be your working document anyway, and filed.
this is the most recent. Actually, we probably have some revisions even to this 21 version that it definitely would not have been filed. In 21 would have been the most recent time. I don't know, it was COVID, but that was
Right.
so I thought we had filed it. We kind of went through all the motions and had, the meetings, so.
There was some changes, I think, what, in 22 or 23 that I saw that you posted on your website last year.
There could,
Of
yeah,
showing some bylaws, but those weren't filed either then?
probably not.
Okay, so this might not have been filed?
I
Okay.
don't know.
Are they
I-
required all to be filed or every single
So, yeah,
time?
because
Yes.
not for profit needs to be
You're
filed.
changing them.
Yeah,
For
any amendment-
bylaws
Yep.
amendment-
and
amendment
for.
change. Yeah, because it's your
Yeah,
rules
change
that you're
them.
supposed to run by.
Well, that's
Well, that's your
different.
template.
That's your.
That's not these bylaws and articles of incorporation.
Okay,
So basically then your articles of incorporation currently filed with the state would be,
2015.
yeah, 2015.
so which ones are legally binding? I mean, if you've made changes but haven't filed that amendment with.
Last one filed.
The last one filed?
Yep.
Okay, so you guys want to get that changed really quick.
Right, so to try to keep this as simple as possible, I created a little worksheet that's on that front page or the tab. It's basically kind of like a little outline of the contract itself. It has the bullet points, some of the hot topics to kind of discuss. type of agreement. It's been kind of discussed between everybody what to call it. We could skip this and come back to it at the end because it could be a long conversation.
Right.
I would probably just,
When we had our meeting, excuse me. Ed brought up that you guys seem to be more interested in a long-term permit than a service provider agreement. Are you still thinking along that line? To kind of sever and create less. I think his idea was to create less work and requirements for you guys. So we haven't spoke since then, so I'm just trying to find out what you guys have been discussing since then.
No, I think we're okay with the service provider agreement rather than a long-term.
Okay.
So then that settles one on their side. What about for the board? You're right.
Chair.
Go ahead.
I think, so my question, because, we've been discussing this, is something that, kind of came on here for, so the SPA, having that, I know there was questions last year about how, and if this protects us enough from any liability issues. So are we better, in staff's opinion, to have that, or are we better to have a long-term permit?
in my opinion, the way we structure the wording of it is going to be important and it's key as far as the records law and the way that definition reads as far as the partnership. So we have to be kind of careful with that part of it. As far as like a partnership, that's why sponsorship's involved. That's why the other option was there to kind of be careful with that part of it. So.
And with the service provider agreement, it's gonna require them to fulfill all those obligations that are currently in there now, or
Potentially, but
Well, yeah, that's something that Mr. Palin and I have spoke about quite a bit. And whatever you contain, and I'll let Mr. Palin put it into more legalese terms, but basically from my simpleton perspective, whatever we have in that SPA, they will be required to produce that as a public record. No
But it would
matter,
be limited to that.
yeah, it's limited to that.
Whatever
but-
they're required, that's the operative word in the statute.
so
Yeah.
you're saying we-
Any information or document that records
That we, that
that the district requires in the agreement have to be made available to the public through the requirement, the steps that are in chapter 119.
So, and that's why when I went through it anyway, I was trying to make it where we limited that, where if the board decides to give them sponsorship, and I spoke when we met several months, like, why don't, instead of us just giving you a check, say, give us receipts, if they want to buy football equipment or umpire or background checks, then at the end of the year, all we say is, show me the receipt, show me the football helmet, and that's all we need. If that's what the board wants to do.
and I think that's a good idea, because the rest of the community will, should be,
Aware of what.
yeah.
And then that cuts us
For
down
transparency.
worrying about concessions.
Right,
Or
yeah,
anything
right.
like that.
So,
Which we have no
Just
business
through the
getting
chair,
involved in
Any
concessions.
discussions that we have had with the AL, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but any discussions we have had, they have been more than happy they have come up with different ideas how to make the process easier with badges, even with records, how to store them, even ways of like having certain records, if it's easier to access them with background checks, having them here, or whatever is easier to make the process easier. The communication has been a lot easier once we opened up the communication this way. So it's been really good. So
Right, because we want to reduce our liability and we want to make it easier for them.
Yeah.
So we have to find that balance.
Yeah. I think the understanding is just there that we just want to do the same things.
I hate to circle back to this Article 5 again, but I think here it's saying that they fall under the ALA, so does the ALA have to do anything with them in order to?
That's not
change
the one that
anything?
was filed in,
That's the one that was filed in
2015.
2015, but
No,
you
it
don't have
wasn't.
anything else that's filed.
well, that was not the one that was filed in 2015.
I'm sorry?
The document that
saying
you're
it's not
referring to where you're referencing
The
that
95.
clause, that Article 5 was from the original filing in 95.
In
So that was
2015.
But is
amended
there
in
anything-
2015.
But on the one for 2015, do we show where you changed that?
I don't have that document.
So you
And
don't
we
have,
pulled up that amendment. Oh, that's
yeah, but it's just a
bylaw.
sheet. It's just a sheet showing that they changed,
It
amended
says
it.
to amend which articles. So what is the number on the?
It's Article 5.
Delete second sentence.
It's not in the, because.
It's Article 5A.
See anything where it shows that.
So under tab, is it tab 7? That, which is Articles of Incorporation of the AAL.
Mhm.
So the name of the corporation is at.
But that, this is a null, that's a null articles of incorporation because they never filed it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's some.
So you have to go to the 20,
Yeah.
15 one.
2015.
yeah.
Tab number 4 is what
Yeah.
have the changes to it. Yeah.
Regardless, I think that it can be,
Right. So, but then
Address-
the ALA have to
Well,
be
what-
involved in their removal, because if they're falling under ALA,
Yeah.
What-
No, no.
no,
that's-
the ALA doesn't, they could just.
they're a subcommittee of the ALA, correct? So what, does ALA need to be involved in this, is I guess what my question is.
That
I
would-
think they could
That would
choose
be a
to not
question
be a
for their
subcommittee.
attorney.
of the
Yeah, I
ALA.
was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
So.
You guys definitely need to
Yeah.
ask your attorney that question.
And actually, I think that's what Mr. Lawrence was getting ready or stated earlier, that you may just want to start anew.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
That's
A restated and amended and restated articles and bylaws. A new base. We
Yeah.
start over, forget about everything that happened before. Let's start over new and just file that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can go back through and all of this confusion that we're having with all these
It doesn't.
things
include
that
any
happened over the
membership.
years. We can just forget about.
Just as a subcommittee. And that's clearly something that.
But you have to
AAL
consult.
would See what you think is in your best interest. So,
Yes, I have a counsel in mind already.
Yeah, yeah.
I work with attorneys.
Yeah, no problem. So. But that is something, so whether. Just need to clarify that.
So everybody's in agreement. Number 1 would be service provider agreement.
Yes.
you guys are fine, but yeah.
So number 2 would be the term of the agreement. How long would we like the agreement to last?
What's the current?
I want to say it's 3
Yeah,
years.
it's 3 years.
Yeah,
Comfortable
so,
with 3?
It was actually,
but it had it.
it was actually 2 years, it was actually. The original one was like 4 years with a 2-year.
Automatic renewal.
Yeah.
No, the 2 years, every 2 years we would pay
Mhm.
the sponsorship.
Yeah.
But I think when we made that agreement, it was for 6 years maybe, or was it 4 years?
4 years.
4 years, okay, and then we extended it. There was an amendment in 2019,
Yes.
or that was the original. So. So I had a question about that because I saw the $5,000 in the service provider agreement and a term of 5 years, which I'm good with. But it's based on an annual.
That it would be based on whatever the board, what I was, so
The-
that was
the
my.
Sponsorship
change.
was annual.
Yeah, so if the board wants to do a sponsorship, that's up to you. I was recommending a 5-year, so you don't have to sit here every 3, or we all don't, whoever's here doesn't have to do it, because
Right.
3 years seems like a long time, but when you're doing seasons and all that, it's really not. So that's why I said 5 years.
Yeah.
And then that way, when the 5-year hits, you can do another 5-year for the board, AAL do it. So that's instead of getting 3 years. And the board has traditionally done 5,000 or 10,000 every 2 years. I just put 5.
When did they start the 5,000?
In 2019.
In 2019?
Yeah.
They started.
Actually, it might have been before that.
It was
was
before that,
before that.
because I started in 2019 and I know that they had done it at least one,
It might have been
the previous 2 years.
2016, and
2016,
why do we start doing that?
It was for.
You want to know history?
But just a quick synopsis,
So a
maybe.
quick synopsis through the chair would be basically, they were getting a sponsorship from Minto. And they wanted to put Minto's logo on the
It was
scoreboard.
on the
Right,
score.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
On every T-shirt.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
So that's,
okay,
And
and so because of
we're
that,
very
and
upset about it.
we had legal issues.
Yeah.
It was really, okay,
So it was.
so,
so
but
it
we
was-
can have India Trails on our board, right? We,
Yep.
we don't need to.
yeah, I think it was partially for that, and then also partially because they were providing a service to the, it was also to try to keep the registration dollar amount a little bit lower for the general
And the
public.
board wanted Indian Trail on everything. Because
Right,
we
but
are
it-
sponsoring, but we weren't being recognized as sponsoring them in any way. So there was a cost involved in putting ITID on everything, because they had to put it on helmets, they have to put it on T-shirts,
Right,
everything that they had.
And
So-
flyers.
so that's why we were
Pictures,
giving them
everything.
5,000 a year.
Yes,
So do we feel that by having our logo on everything, does that seem to still in a way tie us into them, even if we get addresses change and whatnot?
Through the chair. So I kind of looked into the sponsorship agreements and things like that. And depending on what we allow, will depend on our level of partnership. So as long as we're not paying them, giving them cash, like that, we're talking about structure, it actually keeps it a little calmer.
More separate,
Yes.
and that they wouldn't be required to put it on everything.
No, but you could still do that. And you're not necessarily.
opinion on that, because I see Frank.
Well, I'd just be nervous about the use of the term partnership.
Right,
It's a,
right.
It's a
it's not
sponsor.
a.
Sponsorship,
That's why we're
right.
using.
That's why I want to be careful of us getting tied in.
Yeah.
Because I do want to say, I've checked out your website. I think you guys have done an amazing job updating it, making it more user friendly. I think lots of information. I like how each individual sport has a page that you can go to. The pictures that you guys are including on it are great. So I think you guys are doing an amazing job. I think that's great. I did try to go onto your AAL website a couple weeks ago, and it kept sending me to a page not found. So I don't know if there's an issue there.
It could have been the domain. Yeah, it
Yeah.
should be back up though.
Okay,
And
yeah, I
it
was
still
just-
needs to be further like edited and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I had gone on and I'm like, well, that's weird. So, but I do think you guys are like great strides. I mean, Wendy, I know you just took over what, a year
A year.
ago, right?
Pretty much.
So I think you've made some great strides in changing and updating, getting more community involvement with the field use and getting training for the football and whatnot. So I think under your leadership, I've seen a definite change. So I 100% definite change. I like that you're getting more out there with things, you know, so I think I have seen a change. So, and I appreciate what you've been doing.
Appreciate
So,
that. Thank you.
you're welcome. I think I like the idea of like, if they need helmets for the year, we pay for the helmets, or if, I don't know, do you guys, I played softball once upon a time and I had to use the catcher's gear. Do you guys have like catcher's gear for them to use for baseball and stuff? Like, I don't think everything should be geared to football. I think you have a very wide sports program. So do you provide that kind of stuff too to them?
Usually it is the individual sports who purchase their own equipment, whether it's a bat or helmet or things of that nature,
Yeah,
but it's
just-
usually their own sports. Now, if the funds are not available for that individual sport, then they come to us and we
Right.
help them out with
And
it.
that's where we could step in and we
Mhm.
can maybe get like, you know, you guys could go out and purchase like catcher's gear. And I said this, my son was a catcher, so, you know, I just know that's expensive and, you know, kid that's just trying it out, it would be good to make sure they had a set for them too.
Yeah, we actually just had a sponsor from the basketball program donate gently used items for baseball as well, which included some bats and helmets and some balls and stuff like that, so. I
There was
gave that to
also,
base-
wasn't there some need of replacing some of the stuff that, and this is part of the issue. That not all of the sports are 100% all the time at ITID parks, but at Hamlin Park, the softball program or the baseball program is
Baseball.
there, and there's some things that needed to be replaced there that are kind of expensive. And the baseball program does not have the money to do.
They're
But-
trying to build their program back up. I think.
Yeah.
It
Yes,
took a big
definitely.
hit, yeah.
So where I was going with this is that, if does it matter whether or not it's at acreage? Or if it's at an ITID park, or
I think
if it's just an acreage athletic league program that is
I
running?
think it should be an acreage athletic league program. I think if baseball, it's falling under their umbrella.
Mhm.
And their SPA is with us. I would think, because you got soccer and you have baseball out at. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
all right.
I think it'd be important. My question though, and I'm gonna seem like the bad guy, and I don't, this is just me asking questions. You get, I think we provide concession to them.
I have all that in the actual worksheet, if you want to that line, get to that.
All right, so when we get to that, I'll ask the question. Okay.
There's a sponsorship section.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry.
Not, we'll get back to it.
You said something about the 5,000 a year in lieu of buying helmets, like you said, after you get, give us a receipt for so many helmets, then explain that again, is that?
So what happens right now?
Suggestion.
Yeah, so it's a suggestion. So basically what we do now is say, here's a check for 10,000 every 2 years. So it's $5,000 a year, if that's what the board wants to do. What I'm saying is instead of cutting just a check, they come to us and if they want to do background checks and it's $2,000, then they show us that, it's going to be used for that. And then we get a receipt after they've done it. And we know because they're going to have badges. So we can verify at the end of the year when we go through, if we get audited, where would that $5,000 go for the SPA? Or if the public comes here and say, oh, they're wasting your 5,000. No, we have the proof right here. And then up to 5,000.
We'll give them the 5,000, just put it in the bank account for them to come to us with receipts and we pay it. Because as far as giving them $5,000 to sponsor, we already sponsor, it's the Indian Trail Parks. So, so it's already, we're already. doing
I
it.
guess to elaborate on the history there, the scoreboards were actually purchased by Acreage Athletic League. And so the scoreboards were technically ours and we had Minto on our scoreboards. And so we came to the agreement because Minto was sponsoring us that same $10,000 over 2 years that you guys would replace that major sponsorship so that you didn't have Minto on scoreboards that were on your fields. So that's where we came to an agreement.
Like I said, it is Indian Trail
difference.
Fields sponsorship. I mean, I have sponsored your teams before because I believe in.
But that's
You
different.
guys do,
It's,
you guys do a great job doing what you do with my children. I'd like to see it more to make sure that they're not tearing up the bathrooms and stuff. I'd rather be hitting home runs and stuff. So y'all do a great job. I was just questioning, we already are vested with you. We're together. We're married. It's Indian Trail Fields. You guys are a service provider to make sure that our children have great sport programs. And once again, like everybody said, you're doing a great job.
And I think the biggest difference between having our neighbors on there and us, is that's a private entity. And they don't have to be as transparent and forthcoming with information that we do. So it's easy for them to just stroke a check and say, here, you go do whatever you want with it. They have nobody coming back to them and saying, well, where did this dollar go? Where did that dollar go? And believe me, we have people doing that often with different things, not just with you guys. So this is something that's very important that we need to definitely clarify how it's gonna go. And by doing it in a sort of reimbursement fashion, it's very easy to say, like Mr. Hanson just said, yep, here you go. This is where your tax dollars went.
And that's
Right.
all we would be required by state law to provide.
Right.
Most.
Right, so I think doing it that way is beneficial for everybody.
so we're recommending that it be a reimbursement of expenses
Correct.
annually, like one time a year.
Yes,
Okay,
I was going to recommend
Right.
expense
Right.
reimbursement sounds appropriate.
expense reimbursement once a year. So
Right, up to
Annually, so you're not gonna
5,000.
come every other week and, $200 here, $500 there. It's gonna be once a
no,
year.
the county
Here's
would
our,
kill us. so
here's our
please don't do
receipts.
that.
Here's what we want to be reimbursed for.
Right, Mary,
Yeah.
back there nodding her head.
Now regarding that reimbursement, is there a specific, like itemized?
Well, we haven't gotten there yet,
It's-
but I think
It's number 9.
Okay, we just
There's a
went
whole-
down that rabbit.
Okay,
hole.
so where do we want to go? Do we want to go 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year? Where's
I'd like to see
everybody?
5 years.
Yeah, you're fine. Staff is good with 5 years.
If someone gets on the board, they never really have a chance to be able to say this.
Yeah, but it's,
Well,
they have there's a cancellation.
Yeah, we
there's-
can, both sides,
Yeah.
is it always
There's an out
termination
clause.
clause?
Yeah.
So,
I think this should not be subject to, we get a new person on the board and they don't like it and they want to kill it. I think that we have to honor our agreements, and when you're elected to the board, you should understand that. So
That's why we're
5
doing it.
years.
Just for clarification, the number 3 date of agreement execution. We good with October 1st, what date?
Through the
So,
chair,
yeah.
I want to actually. What would be convenient be based on seasons for you, so when we get. So this executes and ends on a time where we're not in this flux of like, you're getting ready to register and there's this big. Push, and then everybody's under a time crunch.
Everything is kind of year round, so,
We did.
I mean, right now, tackle girls and boys registration just ended.
Oh, that's about to start like in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Can I make a suggestion that included in the reimbursements, like we cover D&O insurance? So I would think between our background checks and our D&O insurance, that right there would cover the $5,000. So if,
Oh, no, I was talking about the date of exit agreement.
right.
execution.
Well, you were saying, is there a more convenient time? Because those are like, so I renew my D&O insurance on July 1.
All right,
So around, the time frame that you're looking at or submitting it by, let's say, September 30th would be fine. I
all right.
feel like, I don't know if September 30th is that your fiscal year.
We
end?
did-
So that would be fine.
We extended you. Do we have an idea of what we extended you guys to? Because I know we were trying to get it to where you got through the football season, I think, because your football season. So do we do it through November? I think,
I don't know.
huh?
It was September.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought we gave you a grace period till November 15th to extend. So could we do it like December 1st or?
Well, the reason why I was asking is if they're in a big like football season.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here trying to have this and.
You can't promote a program.
September- Well, yeah, I just meant even just getting. a
But we're
joint
here working
workshop.
through it. I think we should be
Yeah.
able to get it done before, like, November 15th. I think we should be has everything solidified. I feel like we're all working together, so I think we can definitely get this done a lot quick, get this done in
It's completely
speedy.
up to you. I was just trying to figure out a way to.
September. So September ends your,
Would we have an opportunity to submit the invoices from the past year? For the
Didn't we do
5,000?
something with that money? We did
No.
that, we did lights, I thought.
We did lights that were not utilized, and are
Right.
we still spending money for that?
They're going to,
How much money have we spent?
So- Well, we haven't, I don't. We haven't, I think, we haven't got them yet, because we haven't needed them. Yeah.
Right, because when I was at the park,
Yeah.
there was temporary lighting there.
because we needed something, right? To get those lights takes about 60 minutes, which puts us in the middle of summer. So
And then we've got grant money for that.
Yeah, but those lights that we purchased will actually go to other parks.
Yeah, so that money's kind of, we allotted it to go to that.
But this,
So this would be a
But
new,
the
this
upcoming
would be a new
October
coming up
1st
year.
would be, then they could on October 1st submit. And then
For
annually.
October 1st going forward or for the previous fiscal?
No,
no,
for the
Going
upcoming
forward.
year. So if you've got expenses on October 1st for your upcoming season or what have you, like, let's say you're,
Well,
Uh,
like we were paying our insurance. So
Right.
the insurance renews July 1.
So-
So that's to us that we were kind of under this agreement and we were somewhat relying on that, we would continue the partnership and the monies being there. I think it's been like 2 years since we got
that's correct.
the money. So in some sense, we're a small organization. It's not like we're charging, an arm and a leg. We're basically break even. So, we kind of rely on this money. We're eating into reserves to not get that sponsorship. I mean, it's kind of like, you guys have $17 million or whatever your budget, like our budget's $200,000. You don't just go and take $5,000 out of a small little budget and not feel it. So it's like, kind of like, oh, let's just use this for something else. But we've had this ongoing partnership and we've been running the sport. So I don't understand why it's all of a sudden, oh, we're not going to give you the money. Like, this is going to reimburse us for background checks and for insurance.
Right.
I mean,
So
like things that I would think that you would want us to have as an organization to protect ourselves.
Yeah. I think
but we
what
also
talking-
clarified before we use that money towards the lighting, we confirmed with Wendy at that meeting to make sure it was okay with her that we allocated that money.
Well,
So-
what do you mean? That it's like, oh,
At
can
one
we
of the
take your money
meetings
and
where
we're
we
gonna buy
allocated,
lights for it? I mean,
Wendy
isn't
was
that
here
your
and she-
responsibility to put equipment on the parks? Like, how is that coming out of our budget?
Well,
Like,
isn't
we
it
have to
your
come up with $5,000 to put lights on Indian trails?
Isn't it the league's responsibility to provide it DNO? Like, why should that be something that's used extra?
I'm asking if that's something that could be reimbursed.
See, that is
I mean-
one thing that I'm concerned about with the whole reimbursement, because then it's like, oh, well, ITID's paid for it. And, you know,
I think,
I think a sponsorship, when you're giving money, they have a choice in how they're gonna use it. We don't care how it's being used, other than it's being used, and the benefit that we get is our,
through the chair.
Hey,
You know.
through the chair, the reason why I'm doing this is specific. And it's not to be like, oh, I want to pay for this or that. It's if we give them a check for $5,000, basically their whole financial thing, unless they can show us where that $5,000, every little penny went, it's gonna be incumbent upon them. So that's why I said if we use a receipt where they say whether it's DO insurance, the only thing I was concerned about is concessions. We don't want to get into that because it's, you know, if something
Right.
happens there, it's not at the end of the year, it's a little bit more difficult. So whether it's the insurance, the background checks, or
Right.
or something that we can see. So like
Physical
umpires, referees, they got to do hour cards or something. We can prove that, yeah, they were there on June 15th at whatever time. That's why I was doing that. So I was trying to be very exact, so you don't have to they don't have to produce the records, but then we're required to
Right. So,
on their behalf.
and here's my mindset, and this is for me when my kids participated there to now. And sitting here now, I see that you guys you don't pay for the use of the fields. We don't get concession money back. We offer different services that you don't get paid for. I checked, I know you guys are starting a 5-on-5 flag football program, right? I went online and I saw how much you guys are charging. Now, there's a competitive league right out here that charges less than that, and they have to pay for all of the things that you don't have to. So when I see that, and I understand that's just one sports program, but you have many sports programs that pay into these things. So I like the idea of it being the money that we provide to your park or to your program, that it's going to something specific that your programs should already be paying for the insurance, for the umpires, for the background checks. Let it go for something where you need new equipment or whatever it might be. And just to backtrack, we had a meeting a couple of months ago when we did the extension and we were talking about another program utilizing the fields. And we asked Wendy, when she was here, if it was okay if we appropriated that money to go towards the lighting, and she agreed to it. So it wasn't something that the board just upended and just decided. It was something that we included with your president. So
it was actually a compromise to keep them out of Acreage Community Park and using Acreage Community Park fields when we didn't have field time.
It was field time. You had it in the afternoons. It would have been programmed around. And to be honest with you, they didn't even want that. They wanted the south expansion. Regardless, I feel like if the $5,000 is going to be handed, I think you guys need plenty of things. I think you guys need plenty of equipment and whatnot, that we're showing that it's going towards that versus your normal fees that you should be charging within your registration costs. That's my opinion. I don't know what anybody else's opinion is.
So the date of the agreement.
Not to,
October
I-
1st,
yeah, to try to control like,
with our fiscal year, what's your fiscal year?
Calendar year.
Okay, so this is actually, would be in advance of your calendar year, so it's probably better. So you're not working on that one day. So I think October 1st through September 30th.
We're not giving it to them, put in like in a petty cash account.
Well, this is the agreement itself.
Oh, the
not
agreement,
money,
okay.
Not the sponsorship.
But getting back to the 5,000.
Well, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
through the chair.
Can we just maybe
Can
get
we,
through this?
because
Yeah.
we are gonna get into that. There's other stuff before we get to that. Yeah, we will.
I was wondering how we got to that. I thought we were still in how many years, which we decided on 5, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And
and
we
then
got the
the
date
date-
of agreement. The date is
Okay.
10.
All right. so
October 1st, 2024.
You guys good with that, Wendy?
5 years.
5 years, 10-1?
Through the chair.
1 second, please, now. Good.
Yeah, I just want to say,
Yeah,
Jeff,
we did go. for the Lights.
just what I,
Go ahead,
not
Keith.
going to or anything, but as far as the 5,000 with the receipts and everything else. Whether we give you the 5,000 receipt or we just give you the 5,000 sponsorship, yearly, you're supposed to give your financials, so we know where it was going anyway.
Well,
can we just go back to going in order of this and then
Yeah,
get to that discussion?
Hold on. So, I mean, so I'm just saying, it's either way, y'all gonna get the money.
Keith, I did give you the financials when you asked for it. It was a public meeting, so, you know,
Money's
we've
going to you,
complied.
that's all I said.
And
This was just gonna simplify it, and which is what we're trying to do.
Make it
Okay,
easy
so-
for you.
Scope of services next.
So I have a question about this because some of the sports on here, I know you guys have done in the past, but are not doing now. And do you really want to have some of the sports that you're not doing or maybe not interested in doing on here, like pickleball and lacrosse being two of them? I know we had a lacrosse league at one time. And we stopped doing it. I don't know.
Short term, yeah.
Do we have a desire to be?
I think it should be left open because what if
that-
what if Seminole Ridge starts a lacrosse team and we want to start doing a feeder system here at Acreage? So I think it
So
would
you're
be
saying
important.
to check them all off
Yeah,
then?
use them
Okay.
all, keep them
All right.
all. Why would you close yourself off to that?
And
So I
then-
think it would be important.
And then I was wondering from staff perspective, why you have cornhole and horseshoe separate as an adult thing? Cause I kind of view, why can't we have all of them listed as youth and adult athletics?
It can be, there's other.
It can be.
We have the other
Set
option,
it up,
yeah.
yeah.
Are there any sports that we're missing?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, well, I'm just saying ones that Acreage, but what I'm saying is ones that Acreage Community Park would be able to provide. Are there any sports that we're missing?
beach volleyball,
Do we have a beach volleyball court right now?
No, and we
No.
have no intentions of building one there.
Yeah, so we don't have a beach
But
volleyball.
we do have basketball and tennis courts that are proposed for that park, but not.
yeah, well, we're probably, I don't mean to jump ahead, but under 5, we gave them, you know, for the purposes of tonight, we just didn't look at
Acreage
ACP
community,
yeah, right.
only, because we do have a sand volleyball court at Temple and.
Is it there though? It's not there right now.
It's not there right
Yeah.
now, but it will, it's gonna.
Are you gonna run a volleyball program?
Am I?
Yeah.
Sure. Let me add it to the bucket
My
of things
list
that I
of
did.
things.
We also brought up, talking about, it doesn't take much to just put a net up and have golf, for the senior citizens.
Golf?
Adults.
Are you
Well, we
talking?
can keep that as the other.
Driving.
We can keep that as the
You're not
other.
gonna build a golf course.
Where are you
Yeah.
gonna put a driving range?
Yeah. Maybe as other. There's potential. Okay, so do you see anything for the adult leagues that we're missing?
there's sometimes when they
see
play
dodgeball.
kickball.
I was gonna say
Oh,
kickball, right?
kickball.
Yeah, kickball.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
we
like
do
to
that.
Yeah, I was gonna say kickball, but I meant dodgeball. Yeah, so kickball.
Or
Or dodgeball. I would be
Yeah,
fine with
well,
that.
dodgeball, we'll take an eye out, but yeah.
So just for the
Much lighter.
purposes of the agreement, then, we're not gonna delineate whether it's adult, we're just gonna say. athletic.
All athletes.
An adult.
Yeah.
I think we should say
Okay.
youth and adult
Okay.
athletic
okay.
programming, but I just don't think we need to differentiate or youth and then separate it with adult. I think we
Agreed.
can just
Yeah, 'cause
combine it.
I think don't you do for like the Flags for the Cure, you guys do like a dodge or a kickball tournament
Yes.
for all ages, so I think it should, yeah. I think it should be both. Agreed, so.
On the location part, I think one of the biggest things biggest controversy really has been that the Acreage Athletic League has their presence, they're the program, and their home has always been Acreage Community Park. Doesn't mean that we haven't used other parks. It's just that that's their home. And in other areas that you go to, you know, when you have a program that is predominantly in that park, you do not have competitive programs coming in running there. And I think that that's been a source of confusion and conflict. And so when we had that discussion about the lights, it really was trying to find a compromise so we can remove that conflict that, you know, if BA wants to run, that's fine, but not in Acreage Community Park, which is the home field essentially for Acreage Athletic League. And so that was trying to find that compromise. And so, you know, the other fields, the other parks, yes, I think that you want to have that option open, especially the ones that we're looking at putting fields, additional field space there. But personally, my opinion has been the whole purpose of wanting to put a field at Citrus Grove and at Downers and at, you know, whatever, is that we have a place that's open to the public to go, that because we have public that is concerned and upset that they can't just go and use these fields that we're spending an enormous amount of money and trying to maintain for our programming. So, and I get it. And it's a reasonable concern. So what I don't want to get into is where we end up, you know, the Acreage Athletic League, and this is nothing against you guys, that you're at every single park and nobody, we kind of defeat that whole discussion of we need additional fields for just general recreation, right? So I'd like to see where, you know, unless there's like a specific thing, like we were talking about pickleball or lacrosse, that, you know, it has to be at this park, this is going to be your home park, then that's fine. But in terms of field space for, like, you know, soccer and for football, for example, we know football is Acreage Community Park North. And when we have the new field, that's going to be, you know, a great addition for that program. But once that's done, do we really need additional, do we need to be committing to the other fields at the other parks?
So-
Again, I think it undermines what our intention was with those additional fields.
So we're talking about number 5 right now, correct?
Yeah.
We're talking about 5, but that's also kind of a combination of number 10, which is an exclusivity,
Okay.
kind of part of it that
No,
we
no,
jump
no.
into at that point.
I think it's kind of tied together.
Right.
Are
So
you,
I think one of my
do you guys
questions was,
want first priority then for
Right.
scheduling wise for those parks?
but I think that's fine, but please remember that, you know, the opposing league that's out here, they're incorporated with our community. Like most of those kids that are involved in the competitive league live out here. So I want to take the rivalry out and just remember that when we're talking one league versus the other, when it comes to, like, let's say the Flags for the Cure, and we're trying to get field space and we're trying to work to get field space and make sure everybody's incorporated. Remember that you're going against your neighbors, and we gotta, you know, let's go with what's been going on like the last weekend. We gotta unify and become a unity and get along and try to drop the animosity between all of this and work together and try to especially with the Flags for the Cure, that whole thing was all for a good cause. And it started becoming a very big rivalry thing. And I want to be careful with that. I want everybody to get along. I want us to be a good community. And the way it's going to start is with the leadership, and the leadership working with one another and working with I'm sorry?
Like, you guys introduced this whole division by allowing another league to come in and compete with us. I mean, that's divided the community. That's kind
How
of
did
your
we
guys.
how did we allow them to compete?
Allowing them to permit,
Allow them to what?
I don't know, come in and permit.
Permit
have all
to
these-
use their community fields for a community community league.
You know
that
what
decided
their
to separate
intention
because of
was,
a previous
and
president
you
issue.
allowed for this to happen. This has divided the community.
That,
So
excuse
that's
me,
kind of-
Jeff, but
Hey.
that permit that was pulled and requested came well after any of the other issues that have come up because of it. So don't sit there and try to say that that permit that was pulled is what's causing this division.
So
It
then what
happened
caused
well
it?
before.
Historically,
happened?
the district
It
has
happened well
never,
before.
ever supported a competing league to come in. to the
Ideally,
park.
I think, I don't think we've ever denied anybody space
No,
at
but
community.
the
park.
district,
Except for, I mean, I see you chuckle, Patty, but at the same time, it was during the time that the entire park was closed as well.
Personally, I
And we-
personally saw it with my son's team.
And-
I personally saw it. So it's not something I'm making up. I personally saw it happen. I personally had to deal with it. In fact, I didn't even deal with it. I just listened. And I heard it with my own very own ears. And that's why I'm saying it's a division. And you know what, Jeff? I'm hot right now, and I think I have a reason to be. And I'm just saying, we need to all get along. We, as a board, didn't start this division. We didn't do this. It started a couple of years ago, and then we got involved. So just remember where that came from, and don't put that on us. Okay? All right. Now,
Just a little side note,
Yeah.
I don't know who spoke to your son's team. I know it wasn't me.
Mhm.
I know it wasn't any of my board members.
it was a board member that didn't talk, but brought it all in and circled it all around. So
But
if
just,
we
just,
just, all I
no, I'm
want.
just saying, I just want to say for future reference, we've never tried to deny anything, especially
Yeah.
for the cancer tournament.
Right.
It's a
Let's-
community field and we try to use it, and they were just coming to us because I was trying to, I don't know if you remember, we were trying to organize the whole practice space of it all.
with
That was-
limited field.
Well,
This
I thought it
was,
feels
this
safe
was a
being
year
South
before.
Expansion.
This was even before that. So-
But Mr. Hanson, speak, please.
Correct, but this was a year before.
I'm sorry, because we're pushing on 8:30.
Right, so we got, right.
But the reason why I think we wanted to list these parks is because, yeah, we understand ACP is their headquarters or whatever you want to call it, their
Their
home
main-
ground,
Yep.
yeah. But for right now, for this contract in particular, I don't know that those basketball and tennis courts will be done in 5 years. Hopefully they will be.
Yeah, we don't know when they're gonna be
I
done.
think it's.
Yeah,
being-
so that's why we wanted to do this. So like, for instance.
I just want to make sure that we
Yep,
that there's a distinction
yep,
that, Acreage Community Park is their home field, that is the Hawks, the Acreage Athletic League Hawks, period.
Yeah.
And because that, again, I don't have a problem, and I
That's
think the
fine.
solution for BA, you can be at a different park,
Right.
just like I-9 Sports. You want to be somewhere else, that's fine, but you're not taking our.
Your home field, that's fine.
So-
And I want
so
to,
again.
I'm not even gonna keep hashing that, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, so for instance, at like Sycamore, we have the racquetball court and tennis courts and basketball courts. So what I think Mr. Lawrence and I, but more so his team, what we want to do is we want it to be as clear as possible. So in the future, because you might not be sitting here, he and I might not be sitting here, they might not be sitting here, it's very distinguishable. Now, for right now, until there's tennis courts or basketball courts at ACP, should they have first priority for those courts, not the fields?
Yes.
But the
So
court,
that's.
For their
that's what-
specific sport.
Yes, so that's what we're asking. But the one thing I would like to ask is that Nicole Hornstein, that we knock that off because
yeah,
active
Yes.
sports and horses should not ever
Right, I
be
agree.
together.
I agree.
So,
Can I ask what exactly would they be doing at Coconut? I mean, that's pretty much like an exercise.
adult walking league.
When I created this, I was supposed to them. This,
You got me.
Yeah.
when I did,
Are you organizing a senior league?
when I did,
The part, we got that, but I don't know if I think they're looking at more recreational.
What,
My other question would be the skate park, like what would they? be
well, I
organizing
think
with
what
that?
we wanted to do is if we left a park off here, we did not want it to look like we were trying to exclude something that they may be
Right.
looking at.
So we
because
could
don't
take the
put that-
skate park off.
So,
figuring we could check it out, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Do
even
you
with
feel
this-
the need to have the skate park included in your rec? Okay, I agree. I'm even pondering. the
What
skate
about
park.
Kidscape?
Kidscape has a field over there and that would be where the beach ball would, no, I'm sorry, that would not, but it has a field space where you guys could do like an extra.
Historically, you've asked us not to practice.
Right.
Yeah, we have. in
There's
the
no
past.
lights either right at that park.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's something
that's
that
where
we're
we
looking
should-
at
Yeah.
changing for the future so that's accessible for the general public.
Yep.
So we take Kidscape off.
Are we taking Kidscape
Taking
off as far
Kidscape
as?
off,
Why?
I did
I
get
think
a
we
couple
can leave it,
requests.
but
to
it's
use it.
just
Yeah.
making, yeah.
Can we
use it-
differentiate that it's the fields, just put
The field
field?
itself,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then for Hamlin House, I know that you guys used to use Hamlin House sometimes for your meetings. And sometimes you host, when, like right now, you don't have the use of the press box. So you
That's where
need
all
to
of our
use it for meetings,
occur.
but is there an athletic service, maybe like a coach's workshop or something like that you might need it for?
I know I just had a message from the tackle coach, president that he would like to have a meeting with the coaches for the upcoming season and Hamlin drafts
draft.
occur there as well.
Where,
And
where
we
are you
do-
guys having your meetings now? Since
We
the
have
press
Hamlin
conference?
House.
Are
We
you
do
having
have-
a Hamlin?
we
House?
do have
Drafts,
meeting
everything
sections.
is done there now.
Okay.
But you've
the press
also
box.
been using the pavilion. Oh, yeah, we.
When it's something smaller, we'll
Yeah.
just go to the pavilion.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
So-
typically where.
So for the meeting locations, like he said, we have number
We,
6.
yeah, it's all broken out,
Okay.
like section by
Alright.
section.
All right.
So we really meant Hamlin House, like if they wanted to have a chess league, I know that's not athletic,
No,
but
that's
something
not
like
gonna
that.
be there.
Yeah,
That's
That's
why-
not anything they're interested in.
So we're gonna take Hamlin out of
Unless there's
athletic.
like 1,000 people stepping
Yeah.
up to.
But remember, they also, we can write it in there if they want to request it. And
It's-
we don't have something going
Right.
on, they can still.
Like anybody
Right,
else.
but they can right, they can put a permit in. What about
Yeah.
Coconut Park? Do we feel the need to keep that in there? I mean, I don't
No,
know.
we took that off.
Yeah, that's all.
Cause I know, so the Hoffel Park, that has like a baseball field,
That
right?
has a baseball field, but I don't think anyone goes.
I
to
think you
that
should
right
keep
now.
it just in
We
case,
should,
cause you never
because,
know.
yeah,
You never know. I mean, you got Westlake coming
Hopefully
in and you
baseball
might
codes.
be, you might really start blooming, so it'd be worth keeping.
well, we had an issue at one point of not having enough practice field space for baseball.
Yeah.
But the problem with those baseball fields is that they're actually not regulation size.
Yeah.
So they're good for little kids to practice on,
Yeah.
but not necessarily for the more competitive.
I remember having to do the one on Summer, what is that? It's
Yeah,
where the dog
down
park
there.
is down there. That's where when my son first started playing, we would do practice out there, so.
I do have one thing that is not necessarily in this checklist I want to bring up is, it's not just recreational sports programming that we're doing now. We have travel programs, we have, a little bit more competitive. So I don't know that if we're just saying recreational, if it's capturing, so just to.
Athletic services to me captures it all.
Okay.
That's why I
Alright.
used athletic.
Alright.
Because it's competitive,
Alright.
recreational, whatever else there may be.
Are we keeping Sycamore and Temple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Just
think,
for the Basketball purposes, I know sometimes the school, they don't have the space for it.
yeah,
Because it's either games going on inside, and so they only have outside courts, which does
Right.
not fit everyone.
My only thing, the question is, like I said, once again, thank you guys for what you do, I know it's not paid. Exclusivity versus right of first, like you have your schedule made up, this is when you need the fields. With this area growing and more churches coming into the league, I ran a baseball league for intramural programs for businesses in Louisiana. So if we have more businesses, more churches coming in, and they say, we want to have a battle of tournament for all the churches out here. That's the only, I don't want to see that, they can't do it. There's a sand parks too. So I like the idea we talked about. Have your schedule, lock it in, that's your time for the field. But if a bunch of churches say we want to use one of the fields to have a tournament, I'd like to make sure that they still have that opportunity.
But they would be able to go
use the
around their schedule. How
Yeah.
early do they have to have their schedule into you?
That's,
30
That's
days
in the-
prior,
for
I
the
would say.
field. I mean, you understand what I'm
it's
saying?
gonna be a little bit of a different discussion, but the exclusivity that he's talking about, I hate to jump into 10, would also include, and this is where I kind of need board direction under this one section. of
So
So
10.
let's get these one done.
Let's
Okay,
yeah.
meeting terms.
There's a definition.
Yeah, so this is something, do we even need this in here?
I don't think
Meeting
so.
terms.
No.
Meeting,
just-
I don't
it's
have
a-
meeting terms on mine.
Number
Meeting
seven.
terms number 7.
Okay,
Location.
we skipped meeting locations.
Yeah.
We just.
Oh,
we
okay,
went
all right,
through
I
them all.
see, I see.
Everything.
So I have a question, just, it's a
Whatever.
more of a curiosity question than anything. Why do you have a closed meeting? Why can't they all be opened?
Same reason why you guys have closed meetings.
But we
We
have
actually
legal,
do.
we have legal meetings. We don't have closed where we discuss things in closed doors.
Only attorney-client.
Yeah, only an attorney client. So I'm just curious, as I've always
Well,
wondered.
oftentimes we actually don't even hold that closed meeting. It's only if there's something that we need to do. It's like
Pending.
described as a workshop. And so there's
That should be
nothing
open
that
to
we
your-
would make a decision or anything we would do at a closed meeting. We would then present that at an open meeting. It's just so that we're not sitting there in front of the public, like
Right.
just.
Through,
But
I would
Chair,
say-
there's actually a purpose for their closed meetings.
Okay, what is it?
One of the purposes is when there is a problem that needs to be brought to the executive board and discussed that is not to be discussed publicly. Sometimes it's a personnel issue, sometimes it's a there's any number of things, and some of those things are protected items like HIPAA. And that's the purpose of that closed meeting. That's always been my understanding.
Correct.
Also, it's not-for-profit corporations are governed by chapter 617 Florida statute, so they should consult their own rules.
Yeah,
The
check
members
on
of the
that.
Right,
organization.
part of your bylaws.
Yeah, check, but it's not, it's a Florida statute. So check your bylaws, because me sitting on the outside, I've always questioned why they would need to have a closed meeting. I mean, what could you guys be discussing during the closed meeting? I think your meetings, as a participant, a former participant of your leagues, I would say it might be something that so that people see that you're open and you're not closed doors discussing things behind backs and manipulating things. Maybe keep it open. And then if it is a personnel issue or a grievance issue, just hold a special meeting. That's just,
And for our call it closed meetings, I don't think we've ever denied anybody access.
Okay.
It's just that we're not publicly saying, hey, we've got this meeting. And then oftentimes, like whatever it was in June, we didn't have that meeting. There are oftentimes that we actually don't have that. So it's kind of like an optional.
but it's in
thing.
your thing where it's like, what is it? It was on the website. I don't know if it was in the bylaws or the article, but it was like the first Tuesday of the month
Yeah.
was your regular open, and then the last Tuesday of the month was your closed.
The bylaws.
Yeah,
It's
so I'm just,
optional.
all I'm saying is it just seems weird to me, and I always thought it did, so that's just a thought out there. Okay, sorry.
So on-site equipment storage,
We
you
don't
have
need about-
the garage there already, right?
Yes.
Can I ask? What's staff's thoughts on the storage, equipment storage?
Can we, just for 6 and 7 real quick, can we finish those two? So I can close these out.
I thought we said we didn't need to have
Well, do we?
the
yeah.
meeting terms because
So
they're
it's
doing.
gonna be open.
I don't think
Okay.
we need it, right?
No, what I'm
What
suggesting,
if we try-
recommending is that we don't need, I don't care when they meet.
Right, that's what
From
I'm
a
saying. We
staff
don't have to worry about
We
it.
just need to facilitate, I think that the real issue is under the Hamlin House, we have a policy that says nonprofit organizations can
Yep.
use Hamlin House, blah, blah, blah. But the Acreage Athletic League and the AAL have a service provider agreement that has an exception to that rule, and it allows them to use Hamlin House, I think, once monthly for each of your meetings.
Yep.
So I think that that's really what you're trying to get to. This is what
Yep.
is already in the agreement. You're already permitted to use Hamlin House for your executive board meeting and
And
for
the
your
individual
sports
sports,
meeting.
yeah.
And because you don't have the press box, I guess there's a greater need right now until we deal with the press box.
Basically, what I was asking is there a limit of how much you guys want to allow for? Are we talking one?
Is that what
time,
you were
twice?
just asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically just clarification, the detail.
I
how
think
many-
twice a month tops, I think is good enough, yeah.
But
Do you
if they
feel-
need to have meetings, I mean, why do we need to prevent them from having that?
We haven't as of right now. I just was curious if you guys wanted this in the actual agreement, any specific times. There wasn't even anything in their sports, like for sport, for the meetings. For the
What are your
discussing
thoughts
section.
on that?
We can add that.
What are your thoughts about the meetings and the use?
We've never really used Hamlin House prior. We always had the press box, so we would just go straight there for drafts, for anything that the sports individually needed or we needed. So I think not having that press box kind of limits us to.
Right. But what I'm
Going to-
saying, like the once a month, twice a month, or do you think we need to keep it as like another, like 3 times a month? Is there a certain number you need to say that we're holding that? Is that what you're saying is how often we're holding that off?
I mean, I don't have a problem as needed, as long as we have enough notice.
Right.
Getting a 30-minute notice that they need to get in there doesn't work for staffing
Right.
purposes, because we could have a guy over in Downers closing the parks and we can't get over there because it's the only person we have. So we need some kind of notice time frame in there to be
Can
able
we
to.
put like 3 days notice?
I was gonna say, no, but you have your set days
First
for
Tuesday.
your, the first Tuesday and last Tuesday of the month. So you already have that. So it would be definitely twice a month that you guys would need those. So I would say at least twice a month. And then if they had an emergency meeting they needed to put together, they could just do a 3-day notice.
And
About three.
seasonally, we'll have drafts, and sometimes we would hold a draft there, so.
Right.
But we could certainly give you the advance notice and arrange that.
Next week, Girls Flag has their draft going on. We need Allen House for that.
It's not 3 days. No, sorry.
The only time it takes place is on the weekends.
But stuff's already in there. We don't. Yeah. We don't.
We are now. What day is it, Ron? Ron?
All next week,
Next week, I think it's.
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday,
But isn't the boys as well, the
Yes.
draft?
Yeah, the
So-
boys and girls, yeah, we're doing.
At what time?
6:30, I think.
But you can let them know.
Yeah.
right?
Before you schedule that stuff, you should really contact staff and make sure that it's available before you just
Yeah.
put it out there. So,
I mean, if worst comes to worst, if it wasn't available, I'm sure we could use the pavilion or the library.
Yeah.
But, if we can use Allen House, it'd be easier for everybody.
During the week,
Plus
it's
it's
usually,
hot.
yeah, during the week, it's usually not a problem. It's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. that we
Right.
can get the-
Or
Yeah.
staff.
right. Well, that's why I'm saying, make sure if you know it before you tell your people when you're having something, make sure that it's cleared here. I think that's important.
I think we kind of had something.
Yeah, weekends,
Yeah.
we don't.
Friday,
have
Saturday,
Friday,
Sunday, we're
Saturday,
usually
yeah.
not using them.
Kind of have gotten off.
hold
Can
on.
we
Jeff
like
has-
stick to the
Hold
program
on a
here?
second, please.
I really need to.
Jeff has something.
Please, Jeff.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the chair, we have a rental that's already paid this Wednesday. Which is exactly what is the problem. We need to have this information earlier. So Wednesday, the Hamlin House is already booked. It also stated that you didn't have your closed meeting in June. But we do send staff there to open it. So if you're not gonna have your meeting, please let us know so we don't send staff.
Sure, yeah.
Take care of those situations.
Even if it is last minute. Okay,
Okay,
so
next, on-site equipment storage.
So are we clear on the meeting terms?
I think so with that. Are we allowing administration building for any kind of meetings?
Sure.
I think right now we should, because until they
press
have the press box back,
Absolutely.
you know. And I think,
if Hamlin House isn't available, you can come here for a meeting.
Yeah, because the library, you can't just walk into the library, use the room. It's not that easy, so. And you can't give them a too far advance notice.
and even after we have the press box, or they have,
They may still need it.
well, yeah, but if they have someone that has a disability, then
Yeah.
they
They-
would have
right,
to do it here,
right,
Hamlin, potentially right now.
So we're checking off the administration building as well.
Yes.
We're
Yeah, I think
keeping
so.
all those in there in the meeting terms is, so.
And a minimum
And I
days
think-
notice.
3 days, we said.
3
Yeah,
days.
they-
Minimum 3 days.
Minimum. The more the
Unless-
better.
Unless there's an
More than that,
emergency.
Yeah, I think as soon as you know that you need it, you get with staff. This way you don't come into an issue where it's tied up.
Because admin is easy.
So what is the history behind the garage and the equipment storage? Because I mean, of course, that's where everything has been. So did the Acreage Athletic League pay for that? Did the district pay for that?
The garage.
The garage, the
I
football
don't know the
garage.
garage. I know we paid for the little concession
Tool shed.
mobile
Right.
thing, and then the sheds that are like the.
The
down by
baseball
the
shed.
Baseball
Yeah.
fields, yeah. I don't know about the garage. I think the garage is yours.
Okay, but you've always used it for equipment, right?
Correct,
For
yeah.
football, and right now you don't have the press box, right?
Right.
Correct.
So you used to use that for some storage.
Correct.
And everything from there has now gone to the football
The sheds,
The-
yeah.
the
they're
shed
out,
on
and the
yes.
sheds, okay.
Shed and the finish.
So
So-
yes,
Kenny, do we
We've-
need space in there for us, for the district?
There's two things that we could use that for. One, Juniper, obviously we need space for their equipment, it's everywhere. And I have been approached by PBSO that they would be interested in doing a substation out of that park, which could help with some of the crime that we're dealing with. So it is something that you guys might want to consider as far as changing that building, but doesn't mean we couldn't put another AC storage unit closer to the football fields, like behind fields 1, and allow for that to have the equipment, which would be closer and easier for them. That's the direction I would recommend
Okay.
personally.
can we not make a decision on
No,
that
we're
right
not making,
now?
I would say
Yeah.
we're not.
Yeah,
Because-
that's gonna require
Yeah.
money.
Because
Yeah.
that's, yeah, and there's another thing here, because I'm seeing staff. I know we have needs, but we took away a significant amount of parking space for that park. And which, by the way, was part of the permit for that park. And that was not brought to the board. And I have brought this up before. Originally, when the board discussed it, we discussed taking the skate park out because it was going to be relocated and that would be used for equipment storage. Somehow that turned into something completely different. And now I've been seeing that whole area now that is south of the gate that was put there, or the fence that was put there, is being used for storing a whole bunch of stuff. So again, we're not able to park there. And then the issue with the football, the storage. So I think that this is a much bigger discussion. And I think I would like to caution staff about encroaching on parking and any more of that park, because we were permitted for that park based on the parking that was available. Okay.
Okay, so what are we doing with the onsite? We're just leaving it as is for now,
Leaving
Yes.
it to be determined.
to be. What's the location?
Well, that would be where
Yeah.
the
Okay.
sheds and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that
okay.
stuff.
So we're gonna get back on.
Sponsorship benefits. Well, we already said that we would do the reimbursements, $5,000 a year,
Up to.
up to. So provided by the district, building use waiver, field use waiver, all of this concession. Complimentary services, what are we talking about? Like park staff and stuff like that to complement
Basically.
what they're doing.
Does staff get the fields ready, or is that?
Yes.
Juniper does.
Juniper, so
Yes.
that's a compliment. So that's, I mean, we have a lot of expenses that we
We do.
provide.
We
so-
do.
We're willing to
yeah,
take on
we-
the lining of the fields.
Yeah.
We actually would
always
prefer to
pay
take
for it.
on the lining
We
of the
prefer
fields,
it.
because
Yeah.
Juniper has
Just
been
we-
horrible at it.
Juniper,
The Acreage Athletic League.
it is a part of
We-
Juniper's contract to
Yeah,
line
this
those
is part
fields.
Of the Acreage Athletic League. I'm very involved with it.
It is a part of their contract to line the fields. And they were supposed to use that road out each time. And unfortunately, that one time where the fields got messed up, they had a new staff that was just brought out there that day that decided to try to line the fields, which is why we had the issue. They did correct it with the machine.
But actually, every time they've done it, it's been
Okay.
wrong. It's been off. And my understanding is that the Acreage Athletic League had their own people work with them on it, and it's still wrong. It's horrible.
We
Like
could-
they're not even straight.
All right, well, we
If they-
can address that.
Yeah, if you
So
guys
we'll
want to take
have
the lining. that's
Mr.
fine.
Sisolak there directing it, so whenever they want to do it, cause we don't want, it's not that we don't trust the AAL. I don't want Juniper to come back and say, well, they lined the field and they did something to
Yeah.
it. That's why we're trying to do it. So if we need to address that, we will address that with
Yep.
Juniper and get their. butts
Yeah, if you guys have any problems with that, go right to Kenny or Jeff.
Yep.
And
They'll handle
one
it.
time they ran out of paint and they did it in a different color paint. Remember that? For a tournament.
If they do
Yeah.
something like that, just for you, please let me know. Please document it. Please send me photos. I am currently dealing with a lot of issues with them
No,
that we are
it's
correcting.
like- The bottom line is that, anyway.
Well, so the reason why we're putting this here is we want to be very clear what the board is directing in the SPA that you're waiving, so there's no issues with the public or anything else. We're trying to get
Spelled
this
out.
thing down to a science, so again, it's not,
It's spelled out.
yes, yeah.
So within that complimentary is lining the field to maintain.
So we're good.
It's
with-
actually, but if they offered to do it, they always did it. And it's the district that took that away. So it's not necessarily the district is doing them a favor by doing it because they took it away. It's.
Well, we're
So-
doing it at a necessity, not for.
Right, right.
Any
That's what I'm gonna
reason.
say.
We're not
It's
just taking it away from them. We need to do that, unfortunately.
It's part of the
Yeah.
contract. So.
Okay, so annual sponsorship, and basically we already addressed that. Use of the ice machine. So we talked about getting another ice machine
Yeah, so,
because.
so what's happening is basically we have the ice machine for our operations team, and
Which
even on the
they need.
weekend. You know, we have 70 people or more that go out on the road, including park staff. So what I'm suggesting here is they're not that expensive, that we buy one and put it at South Concession. It's not gonna interfere with the it has nothing to do with it, and that way we have something that is a parks ice machine. We're just letting them use it.
What
Perfect.
happened to the one that was at the equipment garage? Isn't there an ice machine there?
No, there never was.
Where was that ice machine that you guys used to get ice? from?
There's-
It's the operation.
That's the one he's mentioning.
In the shed.
Yeah.
And that's the one that keeps breaking, right?
Yeah, and,
Yeah, there's
and
like
really
three in
what
there.
we're probably gonna do is buy two and actually put both of them in the concession stand because that shed, if you should not have an ice machine in there, it's just not healthy from my standpoint.
Do you have water
Yeah, that's
going to the
correct.
concession?
All right,
Yeah.
financial,
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's actually.
But there's also water at the operations.
Well, but yeah, there is, but we don't wanna put it in there.
But he's saying it, he wants to make sure it's the south expansion in the
Yeah.
concession, because that's what we're gonna put in this concession.
okay, so the financial portion,
That was just an extension of the financial. for the
okay, so we've
5,000
already
the
addressed that.
reimbursement.
Okay,
That was just put more detail into it. if
Okay.
needed.
all right.
Is there any more detail that you need for it?
I think so.
I know, I think we.
We have-
No, because in the
Covered all that.
agreement, I did outline that it wouldn't, we wouldn't buy alcohol or anything
Right,
or pay for
right.
banquets. It's very
Very
visible
specific,
stuff.
yeah,
It cannot.
that
be
we can
questioned
easily,
at the end
right,
of the year.
okay. And so the benefits that the league is gonna provide to the district, acknowledgement, district logo placement, merchandise, we need merchandise.
It's in case they were selling anything. It's not, it's just something that was put on here.
Like the Acreage Athletic League shirts, T-shirts
Yeah,
and that stuff.
So
Items like that.
you're saying, you're asking that the logo be put on that.
Well, no,
merchandise.
we're saying, does the board want the logo to
Correct.
be put on T-shirts that they're
as a
selling?
benefit
Right.
in exchange for the sponsorship that we're giving.
Right.
Is it on there now? It's
We
not-
currently use it on the player
everything.
jerseys and the
Yeah.
helmets and the website and maybe any flyers that are.
But not on the T-shirts that you're selling.
No, we don't sell t-shirts.
We
for
don't
Acreage
sell
Athletic.
t-shirts.
But we need to sell T-shirts.
Well, that's.
Oh,
no, for sure.
But I guess what we wanted now.
That's my department. I sold the trucker hat for AFF and I made bank.
Yeah, so
So
what,
we'll, so we can leave that on there for the future,
Yeah.
so we don't have to readdress this. Media and event exposure, the signage at the events already, we're on the scoreboard. Is there anything else anybody could think of that they would like?
Media includes their website and.
Social media.
All
stuff
media,
like that.
media,
Yeah.
broad.
and then other, we don't have any ideas. We left that.
Right, I mean, that
Or
pretty
for
much
that.
covers it. There's really not much else to, all right, exclusivity, so. Is that
That's-
reciprocal?
Well, that's kind of what we were discussing.
With the
earlier.
facility, so I
Right.
think we already.
So we
don't
already,
need
yeah, so
that.
we already addressed that.
Yeah.
Well, no, did we agree that Acreage Community Park?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So
and that's
ACP
the
North and
court-
South would be.
All right.
The courts at the other
Uh,
parks right now and baseball
Yes,
fields.
yes, so we
Okay.
handle, all of that is handled.
Yeah.
Concessions,
Actually, can we go back to 10 real quick
sure.
for the definition of exclusivity, just for
Yeah.
my own records and clarity on it?
Uh-huh,
If I was to have an outside group, like Keith was saying, with a church or something like that, wanting to do a kickball tournament at ACP or Special Olympics reaches out to me and they want to do a whole weekend thing out there, am I just telling them no?
if they are not using it, there's no
They
reason
haven't
to
scheduled
tell
So
them
it's just
no.
gonna kind of be the first priority.
Absolutely, yep,
Okay.
they're getting priority. But when they're not using it, that should be open for the community, absolutely.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Again, how far in advance do they have to give you their schedule? 30 days, correct? So make sure you're getting your stuff in 30 days so we can appropriately schedule other activities.
Right.
Or more. Okay. Yeah, or more. Yeah.
But what about competing leagues? I mean.
Well, that's why I
exclusively
was wanting some definition on that, because
Yeah.
I'm afraid that I'm gonna tell one no and the other one yes, and then I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be in
Well,
the
it's the first
lawsuit.
priority
Well,
scheduling.
But it's first priority, and we've already given them ACP as their main park. So if they're not using it, I don't see any reason why somebody else can't use it. They're still getting first priority.
I have a question, though, good to go back and probably.
But
go back a
yes,
few pages.
exclusive to them for whenever they need it
Right.
with the proper notice.
And for me, exclusivity would mean not
Not
going
allowing
into
anybody
another
else.
agreement with somebody else.
Another service provider agreement.
Well,
Correct.
no. This is just a one and done.
A permit, like a
Permit.
permit that
Right,
says,
yeah,
hey.
a regular
Right,
permit.
if I want to do my
Yeah.
5K on it, and they're not using the park, I should be allowed to do my 5K
Yes.
if it's not conflicting with their schedule. He's just using that as an example.
Yeah.
But yes, it's exclusive to leagues.
So, and them using the south expansion, there's no
First
issue.
priority scheduling.
The conflict we're having now.
There will be, but that'll be kind of put in the contract for right now as an explanation, and then we'll have to.
We've been
adjust that.
applying for those permits.
Yeah, but we'll have to adjust that later.
Okay,
Just, yeah, so I think what Jeff Merriam, and it was also what I was thinking, we know there's certain times of the years where they're gonna do their league stuff, and we should just. I don't want any,
And
it just makes it more difficult and puts the onus on our team. So maybe there should be some where we know there's certain months where we have to heal it. There's certain months where we know they're running league stuff. We should just leave it be and just keep ACP alone for anything else. Unless it's a month like in June, if they're not doing anything, then during that month, then we can maybe open that up, but again, I'm just throwing June out. I don't know what their schedule is,
Right.
but I just
Right.
think we're gonna create problems for us in trying to
So
do
we're
it.
just basically telling everybody no, unless it's an open.
I mean, it's up to the board, but I just.
Well, he
think
would
we're
have
creating
the,
a-
Chair.
He would
Hold on,
have a
hold on.
schedule that he would say, notice the fields are closed, either for the Anchorage Athletic League or for healing, so no, it's closed in June, so he'd have the schedule to do what he wants. I mean.
Through the chair. If it's a special event, it has to come to the board anyway.
Correct.
So just bring it to the board and the board can decide. And the thing is that we have, we're doing the South Field, right? When are we doing the multi-use field, the additional field in this?
Well, not in this upcoming,
But we have a
One,
grant for
doing-
it, right?
well, yeah, that's with the 3 million, which one- you're talking about field number 2, alternative field.
On south side, yes.
Yes, yeah, so that's something we're working towards, but right now.
That's not included with the 3 million.
No,
Okay.
it's included in the 3 million, but we're only focused right now on the artificial turf field.
Right.
So,
But once the artificial turf field is done, and then we build the other multi-use field, I mean, that can be something that is open
Yeah.
for general public or even event stuff, so we can revisit that at that time.
yeah, and for that though, for the south, we're gonna have to come up with this ridiculous
I know.
thing with 60, we have to give it 90 days out for the county and the state to
Yep.
approve it, but we still need time, and if it's something that has to come to the
Can you
board,
turn the
we
temperature?
even need more time, so. That's why I'm trying to say, it's not as simple whenever we say, well, bring it to the board. I think if you're gonna make it exclusive, just make it exclusive.
Yeah, I was gonna follow up on that. I mean, just so everybody's aware. With regard to Acreage Community Park South, we're tenants. And our landlord, Palm Beach County, sometimes has its own views about what activities can go on in the park, just so that, and it might interfere in some way if we promise something could happen. If our landlord decides to stick its nose in it.
So,
Bears, then you might have difficulties delivering.
so you're saying the exclusivity can only really be applied to north side right now and first priority to
Well, we
the
just have to
south.
be,
We-
you know,
We can't say that south is not available.
I would say, here's my concern, and I understand we're putting this in writing, but by saying that AAL has exclusivity, nobody else is allowed to practice there. I get what you're saying. I do. I get what you're saying, that they should have exclusive right.
Look, I don't
I'm at a
think,
torn, I'm at a torn because, again, I'm looking at it, you're saying it's Acreage Community Park. It's not AEL Park, it's Community Park. I don't think it's right that we're saying,
for the league,
Yeah.
not for, if the public wants to come in and use the field when you guys are, I mean, there's been times when we've been there for practices and there's other people on other fields for practices and they don't have a permit
Right.
and it's not conflicting, it's not a problem. It's when it
Yeah.
is conflicting, when we've got every single field and not enough field and people everywhere, that it is a problem.
right.
Or somebody who is
I-
out there that is charging for services that is a violation of
Agreed,
district
agreed.
policy.
But I think, so here's my concern. And I'm gonna use this as another example. So 3 teams are on the field. It's during winter break, getting ready for a tournament. I want to make sure that it's 3 teams. I know there was like there was somebody that was running a special camp for the week or whatever for the day. And it wound up becoming an issue for 2 other teams. And I just don't want to see that anymore. I want to see that they're community members and they should be allowed to practice. And I just want to make sure we're not cutting out the exclusivity on that end.
Don't,
Because
I
that's
wanna
when the
be-
hostility comes.
yeah, I understand. My concern, this from being in this world for 30 years almost, is we get a permit and somebody goes in there, church league, and they tear those fields up and they have something the following week. There's no way that we're repairing those fields without
Right.
putting in new grass. So I'm not
But
trying
that's
to
where
be,
getting a permit. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is like 2 football teams
yeah,
going to practice.
I know.
That's the
but
same
it-
thing.
Yeah.
Unless
it-
the fields are closed. What I'm saying is if the fields are closed, that's one thing. But when it's
Yeah, but even if we have them open
Yeah.
and you get soccer players coming in, this is my biggest fear is you get these soccer players coming in, it's open. There's no way that I can tell Kenny, go out there and kick them out. Because they've
There's-
already done the destruction to the fields. And they're like, I hate using this term, but they remind me of locusts. They come in, they
Yeah.
ruin fields and then they
And
go
they
the
go.
next
and
day.
they were very,
and-
I know who you're talking about because I remember being very disrespectful and
Yeah.
using
And
the
they can
restroom
go-
in trees and all that
Yeah.
other good
And
stuff.
then,
So
and then we.
I get it
the
in that aspect.
Liability and the complaints.
I do
right?
get it.
So.
I do
that's-
get it in
that's
that
why I'm-
aspect.
So.
I just
'cause
want to
I'm
make sure that
torn.
we're,
I just
I
think.
want,
we're-
again, I want us all to get along. That's all I want.
Right. So,
So-
so can we look at exclusivity for the North Park? And leave it at that for right now?
I think that's a smart move.
I mean, for
Yeah,
right now,
I
we don't
think
even have the
it's
south, we don't have the south done yet.
Yeah. the
So
South is-
we're
so-
talking
and-
about
and
something
we-
that, we, you know,
And
Then-
we have to come up with a different process for the South.
Right,
That's why we're
anyway,
not
anyway.
focused on
So,
South.
all right, so.
And the
oh,
South would include anyways that 60, 90 day
It's
advance
more-
notice
It's
or
gonna be more
whatnot.
like a half a year
All right,
because
so we're gonna
it's 90
say
days just for them, but we're
North,
still getting.
North ACP.
I'll need the
ACP.
permit. I'm then gonna have to put it to the board and let them kind of.
I think we need to start putting those permits in now.
Yeah, well,
We
that's
talked
why we
about
want
that.
some of these
Yeah.
scheduled, but right now it doesn't really matter because we don't have a field down there.
No, but if, yeah, we can talk about that some more, but we want to start planning sort of tournaments and different things like that. Next year, we put the permit in now, we're already covered.
Yeah.
We can't be thinking 30 days in advance for that south side. We have to be planning
A year.
6 months to a year out. And then we're covered.
And then what, I
Go
hate
ahead.
doing this, but while we're on that subject, we're gonna have to bring something to the board that creates a different financing mechanism. So if they have a tournament on those fields, and let's say they they spend whatever, $20,000 on the tournament and they make 10,000, that $10,000 has to stay in that section. So what we're coming up with, and I'm working with our new CFO or interim CFO, what we need to come up with is if they say, okay, here's 10,000 to pay for Juniper, and that's also why why we're listing these field waivers, then we can go back to the state and show they did the 10,000 that they made as a profit stayed here. Then on the back end of it, then the district says from the Parks Fund that would have paid the 10,000 for the Juniper, we give that
We
into them,
reimburse
and we,
back.
but we need to create almost a separate process or agreement with that.
Right.
Because it is legal, because it's done. in
I was
certain
looking at
places.
legal. I want to make sure
Yeah.
that's legal to
Yeah.
do. That's
But you
okay.
have to structure a certain way because that $10,000 has to stay in there.
Right.
And that's a state statute, or not state, it is a state
Yeah.
Right.
statute. So there's no way around that.
FTC.
Relating to FCT and
Yes.
only certain parts of the South Park.
So the concession, the field.
Right.
Do we have a
both
plat map for
fields,
that?
actually.
What?
Flat map showing
Right,
where
yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
good and where it's not.
Yeah, we
actually
do.
do.
It's
Probably
it's
be a-
big.
But again, I don't want to get into it, but I
Right.
just want them to know because they're gonna hear that, oh, well,
Yeah.
we're, and there's a way around it, it just is we have to structure it correctly.
Right. Okay, concessions.
Yes.
So the press box has always been Acreage Athletic Leagues and it's where the baseball fields are.
No, I know that. I was just.
Oh, it's on. the-
Okay, I got you. Yeah, yeah.
The other, what do you mean by the second one? Concession?
It's the
You're
little,
talking about
it's the
little
little
shed.
shed, the little shed.
Well, that belongs to them. That's owned by the Acreage Athletic League.
Yeah, but we just want to clear,
Okay.
we want it to be spelled out.
Yeah.
That it's there.
So here's something about South. When we built that park, the board had a discussion that we wanted that concession building. And of course, this kind of goes in line with the whole FCT discussion. We did not want that being dominated by one group in particular or another. We wanted it being available for use at that park, period. So I think that they should be allowed to use it, but I don't think that it should be exclusive. Like the press box should be, in my opinion, exclusive to the Acreage Athletic League, but not the south side until something changes with the FCT,
And then,
right?
and then the
And then-
amphitheater as well.
Right.
But we just added those facts. Do we even need the amphitheater in here? Because
I
it's
just-
technically not a
I just
concession.
added that to the location. We
It's
can always
not-
scratch it out. I'm
Yeah.
just adding things to let the
Yep.
board
It's
decide.
So we're
actually the
scratching
only
that.
place that they can do any kind of sales though, so.
Oh,
They could
you're
keep-
talking about in terms of food. Well, no, they can do it in the parking lot too.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a little section of
Right.
the parking lot where they
They-
could do. food
Right.
So you
stuff.
can-
Maybe we
Food
should,
trucks.
maybe we should
Like,
clarify.
Food trucks.
Yeah,
We don't want
Yeah.
food trucks
Any-
in the amphitheater area.
no. Can we clarify maybe instead of saying amphitheater,
Well, they could,
unrestricted area,
yeah,
right? Let's change it to that, because then that opens up the parking lot and the little bit of parking lot that is unrestricted.
And they can
Okay.
request it.
We don't
through-
usually, we're not gonna.
Right.
In the south side.
No, if
Yeah,
you're
but-
having an event on the
Just in
south
case.
side and you want to be able to sell
Yeah.
food or
here's the
you know,
amphitheater.
merchandise or something.
This is the
There's
only
certain
area
areas
you're
that you
allowed
can
to
do
sell
it
on.
and it
This
doesn't
is
fall
part of the
within the
parking
FCT
lot.
rules.
A little tiny-
Yeah.
You want something there
Or
to
the big
protect you, so you have the
bar.
ability to do
This is
something.
the
So
tiny
Right.
area.
just put it in. You don't have to use it,
Selling
but if you do, at least you have it there.
No.
And
Yeah.
3 acres.
just for the record, so if you do something, I think on that FCT area, like you're selling concessions in that area, you probably will have to track it. Because they're gonna say, they're gonna ask you for a sale if you're exempted from sales tax, or if you sell a candy bar, you may be required to sell it with sales tax and all of that, you'd have to talk to an attorney about that, not doing any of that. So there's just like this other level of bureaucracy that is out of their hands and certainly out of our hands that you'd have to deal with.
Vending machines, who
Do you
owns
have
the
any?
vending machines that are at the press box right now? You guys do. And you haven't maintained them?
It's,
Well, they
Maybe
were
it's
getting,
trash.
vandalized
I would
and
be
Yeah.
getting rid of-
merchandise was getting stolen and unfortunately what was
Yeah.
actually happening is kids would go up from the skate park and they would knock the drink out and then somebody would go and they'd put $1 in to get that drink and they'd push it and the thing would turn, but there's no merchandise. So then I'm screwing
Then
the
you're
person out
losing
of the
$1.
Let's
$1.
just
So
maybe
we just
do
shut it down
away
because I didn't
with,
wanna
let's
take
just
that
do away
away.
with vending machines. We're just
There
asking
was
Are you
a
good with that?
request
for
Are you
trouble.
good with that? No vending?
Well, I mean, if we were able to get something that works, it would make sense. I mean, the reason we put it in to begin was because concession became expensive to, have people in there, whether it's a volunteer, you gotta find the volunteer. If you're gonna pay somebody, the minimum wage just keeps going up. So
Do you-
we did vending as a person having to be there to do the drink. It was a
If
good
you-
idea, but then it got vandalized.
Yeah, if
So-
I recall, I thought we might have mentioned the vending machine under the pavilion where there's cameras.
Right, yeah, maybe relocating it.
Maybe
And
relocating
I
it.
do think
Okay,
that.
so keep it
there's-
as-
There
yeah,
has been a
I'll-
request for it because of the fact that
We
sometimes,
get people.
yeah,
When they're out there walking the
employees,
track or at
Yeah.
the playground.
I mean, we could do that, but it's just, at one point, we said, this is not working and we're taking people's money and that's not even fair. 'Cause they're not getting the
Right.
product, so.
Frank, it's.
I'm just hearing that there's AAL property on our property.
yes.
And so we need to identify it and we'll have to determine what issues are
That's.
raised by
TBD on that then?
liability. I mean, what if it's damaged, who's responsible?
Right.
Yeah, and that's why we want to make sure with the storage, all this stuff is captured in here and it's all.
Right.
So on the vending machines, I also think that they have improved drastically over the past.
Sure, yeah.
Logically for vandalism, but it's.
That doesn't mean they won't smash them.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So, right, and I think Frank's right, we need to look into all of that, so.
But there
Let's-
are companies that you can get like rental agreements or some arrangement to do that. And it can be coordinated with the district.
Right, but
or-
we'd still hold the
Yeah.
liability if it gets damaged, if you're renting it. It's on our property. If we rent a piece of equipment and we damage it, we're paying to fix it.
Yeah.
Or if it gets stolen, we're paying to replace it, it's gonna be the same thing.
Can we look
So
into that?
let's let Frank do his magic on that.
Do you guys do anything with the
Right.
teams, like where they have to do volunteering in the concession stands?
We tried that a while ago, but it gets challenging and then people are like, look, I'm here to watch my kid play. I'm not here to run your
Don't you
concession.
love that? Don't
So-
you love that?
Yeah, Frank, go ahead.
Is there any issue, that's just a question for Burgess, with the vending machines and the revenue that's generated? If that's not located in the exempt area of the park?
Well,
Right,
that's at the South Park, yeah.
Yeah.
We're really talking
Yeah.
about North Park and the
Yeah.
pavilion.
Just on the north side of the park, because I really like on. Other parks like at Nicole Hornstein and stuff like that.
We had one there
Yeah.
too, and they had problems at Nicole Hornstein.
Yeah.
Problem is, huh?
We have cameras now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But isn't there also companies that you could say, okay, if you give me $500 a month, you put the vending machine, you.
And you maintain.
everything.
Yeah, it's
And then
concession
you get-
rentals.
You get the 500 and whatever they say.
Well, that's what we need to work with them on
it's
because,
the rental.
because that all has to be spelled out. In
There's gotta be a way to get around
because now you're letting them enter into the rental into subcontract.
I think we'd probably rather do it ourselves.
Yeah, let them figure that out and get back to us. TBD on that one.
Yes.
Okay.
TBD.
I would definitely say though, we're willing to explore that. It's just shut down because, it was not working, but if we can make a working arrangement, I think we already talked about that it would benefit park staff, if you're there, you want to water, maybe you don't want the tap water or whatever, and you can go buy that or soda or something like that. So we'd be open to, keeping it up and running and have it be like a benefit to the park.
I just, what I think board needs to be aware of, I don't think we should allow them to necessarily subcontract with a vendor rental. I think there needs to be a separate, if they want to do that, we need to spell that out now first.
I think we should
That's-
save that.
I
as
think
a
we need more
TBD until we find
information
out.
about it,
Yeah.
and then we can talk about it later, because it's, we're
Yeah.
starting to get into.
Yeah,
the
it's a
weeds, so,
rabbit
yeah.
hole.
Information we don't have answers
It's a
to.
rabbit hole.
And the insurance requirements are already set, right? The board
There's-
has set those before, so is there something that we're missing?
Yes,
Yes.
we're in the process of revising the district standard insurance requirement, partly on recommendations of Aegis. For example, there are certain categories and requirements that we need to add. And also, they've recommended that we increase our minimum insurance requirements in a number of cases, so.
Ours or theirs? Ours?
Our
What we
requirements.
We have minimum,
Sorry, got it.
yeah, we have minimum requirements that go in
Yeah.
all of our contracts,
Right.
but they're being revised.
Okay, so
Hopefully presented
we're
to
not
the
ready
board.
to,
That's
Have
what
that.
August
So
meeting.
that's a to be.
right,
TBD.
okay, that's fine. On public records, so. Being that we decided to go with the service provider agreement, this brings us back to what we want as far as public records, what their requirements are.
Yeah, so
That's
and
already been
that's
spelled
where
out.
legal needs to opine, but that's why I really am trying to get it down into the finite, so
Right.
that's all they have to provide, and that's all we have to
Right.
worry about, but legal really needs to opine.
Okay,
Can I?
are you ready for that answer yet, or no? Not quite.
Well, we need to have the agreement identify what records are required to be provided.
Right,
But I think the key thing is so that the AAL understands what their legal obligations are going to be.
right,
Because there are serious consequences, I keep emphasizing, if you don't comply, it's criminal. And, you don't want the state attorney coming to visit you when the public requests information, it's not provided. And that's some of the consequences, just to make sure that's quite clear.
right. So you guys understand that this is gonna be on you guys, because for whatever it is. To provide those public records and keep them and,
Whatever. it
What are you
is
saying?
that
Only what's
specifies-
required in the agreement.
right, that's what I'm
yeah,
saying,
it's
so
not-
that's why we need to have this,
Yeah.
right,
Understand, the way the law is written, if we have a service provider agreement, the public makes a request to the district. Then the district makes a demand on you.
But they're only required to provide what's spelled out in the
What's
agreement.
required in the agreement, that's why it's clear, why it's
That's-
important to be clear in the agreement about what's going to be required.
Mhm.
So what are your suggestions as to what we should have in there?
I
It's,
don't have any specific suggestions at the moment. At the
Okay.
moment, just
to be determined.
To be,
wagging my
I have a
finger.
legal question. Do we have an obligation as a, huh? Do we have an obligation because of having a service provider agreement? And especially as it relates to children. I know we had a discussion about with the Acreage Landowners Association and the Equestrian Club. And people that are working with children.
Background.
Do we, as a district, have a requirement? Or any obligation that we need to have that? So, for example, if you've got coaches and they have to pass the background check, do we, as the district, need to have that as a public record?
or do we take
Or-
the word that they
or-
have it?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I think
Well,
our
we're gonna
insurance
pay for it.
requirements are going to require that
Yeah.
they're provided kind of insurance, but first,
If I could have, because Ms. Hazard's been working on that.
Yeah, for our insurance, we have to have them easily accessible. We might not have to have them right there, but we have to have them easily accessible.
so that's something that's gonna have to go in the agreement and be
Yeah.
spelled out that this is an obligation.
And the time frame to receive it from them.
Well, it has to be done before they set foot on the field and they have
Absolutely,
been.
yes.
Right,
Before
no, I
before they even go
But
to
I'm
the
saying,
practice.
if you're gonna request it from the from the AAL,
Mhm.
okay, we want this, we need a copy of the background check.
Yeah.
Are we giving them, you have 7 days, you
Well, as
have,
of right now, as their agreement is right now, it is supposed to go through Kenny. So as of right now, the current agreement is he is supposed to have access to background checks as they become available when they do it. Like he says, hey, look, that coach, I want to make sure that he has a background check. So
Can
he's
we
supposed-
do it where we get them automatically, like every time
I
you
think-
do one,
I
can we
think
send
we've
it?
Been talking about it that.
And-
we
and
can
have-
just
so you have a
them stored
file?
here So that they're actually in a filing cabinet stored.
Ron is the one
We
that
can
does
give
the
him, we
background
can
checks.
give him
We can-
access to the website and he can go in there and look anytime he wants.
Yeah, I mean, we can come up.
So
with
you
the-
save them on the website? Is that-
Well, we have a company that does it for us.
Yeah.
So we just submit the information, they run the background checks, and they keep
Mm-hmm.
a history of all of it. They keep all the spreadsheets, it's all, we pay them to do that, and they keep all the information online. But anybody can get access to it and look it up, but usually it's just me, because we don't want everybody here.
Yeah,
Right.
technically you don't want.
Yeah, I don't know. if we
Like,
want
so you're
access
saying
to their
that somebody can
website.
do
I
a
don't know if
public
we-
records
we just-
request and come
Yeah,
get our background checks?
No,
I mean,
Right,
But
exactly.
background check,
I have
they
to
can
Thin
request that-
gray line, we
that
have to
you
be
can.
careful.
Right.
If something does happen.
show that we actually ran and then,
But not the actual.
but they're not actually gonna get
Okay,
the
if there's criminal
report.
Investigation.
I get, what I'm trying to
Well,
get to
that's a
is
subpoena.
what-
Hold on,
That's gonna be
let's,
like, that's
let's,
beyond
everybody's
the records
talking at
request,
once,
that's a
hold on.
subpoena.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if somebody can do a public records request and go, hey, let me see that background check you ran on this person and then get it.
Right.
We'll have to determine, the public records law has numerous exemptions and exceptions, and we'll have to determine what. Clearly, the district from a risk management perspective needs assurance that record checks are being done. Whether the records themselves or the information in the records are information that are exempt or not exempt under records law, we'll have to determine. So it's just important to be clear about.
Sure.
I
And-
do
and
have a
also-
question, oh, quick, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So are you required to do level 1 or level 2 on your coaches?
We do
That's
county.
what this state requires us to do, they require, they call it a basic.
Level 1?
Yeah, I believe it's level 1. And we just, if there's any change in the law, the company that we pay always comes up with information. And they have all the states listed, they list Florida and all the other states. I just look at what Florida requires, and that's what we're doing.
I question. So I know soccer, I think AYSO don't they have like something specific that they give?
AYSO does their own.
Like-
Right,
like
but
a
they
badge,
give
you mean?
something like a badge or something, don't they, to show
Yes,
that they're allowed to be on the field? Do you guys do anything like that with the rest of your sports?
We did at one point and we are discussing doing it again, just for even staff purposes.
Yeah, I
Um,
think they know who's cleared.
Right.
And I know they had like specific shirts, like if it was like somebody for photography, like they had to wear like a mesh shirt or something. And if it was a coach or a team mom or whatever, so do you do that? Do you
Yeah, we do
identify
coaches
each
shirts, we have coaches shirts and.
Team mom shirt.
team mom shirts? And then you have your board, your executive board and your board have their
Yeah,
own
yeah,
shirts.
sure.
So we have identification. Yeah, and then if they have the badge, the badge so that a referee or if, so I remember my son played AYSO, it was if somebody from AYSO happened to show up at the field, they saw the badge on them.
Right.
So I think that would be kind of.
Yeah,
a
we're
good
trying
idea
to,
that
we're
we
trying
have
to do the
work-
same thing,
started
just to
working on
identify
that.
everybody
Yeah.
So
easier.
the kids know who they can
Well,
trust.
right, and that's a
Right.
good one too. That's right. You're absolutely right on that. So I think that's something you guys should look into. So.
I have a quick question for Mr. Frank. Is the Florida statute, the 119.0701 for the public records that we need to review
Yeah, it's up to-
for our purposes? Oh, I'm just looking at it here,
Yeah,
so,
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
sorry. But it is, that's the one that I just want to make sure I'm reviewing.
Is it the whole chapter or just the section? Because you said 0701,
Oh, I
but
don't. I-
it says 119 here, so,
At the draft SPA, that's what I was looking at,
okay.
119.0701. So I just wanted to see if that's the exact place where I need to look for.
Well, chapter 119 is the public records. 0701, I don't know if that's just a specific thing related to a specific item, so we need to check that. Right?
Yeah, we'll check.
Yeah.
And also there's an extremely detailed manual that's online with the Florida. Attorney General, it's like, Attorney General,
Sunshine Manual.
Sunshine Manual.
Here.
Through the chair, just one thing, we'll certainly look at it more, but again, coming from experience. And this may be something where the board wants to give it consideration as well as the AAL board. And that is to consider looking at level 1 and level 2 and figuring that out because. God forbid, somebody does something, it doesn't get caught, child molestation,
time around.
sexual,
Mhm.
and it doesn't get caught in the level one, and sometimes they don't. I can tell you, again, from experience, you do not want to be sitting in a deposition, any of you, certainly any of you, and certainly not us, when you're looking at the parents of a 5-year-old that just got molested. I'm not
Right.
suggesting they're hiring it or the level one isn't big, but I just know that we make sure you're all informed on that, because that's a serious.
So what do you guys pay for level one that you're doing now?
You know, what's the difference in cost?
They charge, I think it's $1.
Like 9 to 12.
You're not
something like that.
getting any information.
County, that you wanna go and check.
That you said on county?
Oh,
Yeah, but that-
when you do the.
Or,
level
I'm
two,
sorry,
That's.
Yeah, they charge by county. They
by,
do a statewide search, and they do if you wanna go specifically to each county in Florida, it's like $10.
I think it needs to be branched more than just the county. I think it should be
Yeah.
nationwide.
That's level 2.
That's level two. I think you guys need
I
to look
think
at a
you need to go
level two.
level two.
Should be the automatic.
Now,
get with you.
That's
This is a
Somebody
to be
could've done
determined.
yeah,
So far,
because
that's-
you gotta remember,
Just
there's plenty of people that out there that have been arrested but not convicted. And we've had this conversation very
Oh,
recently.
yeah.
So a level two might pick up on that a little bit better than a level one is going to, because it's a broader scope. So let's definitely do more research on that. Okay, pros, cons, notes, I
Can we do
mean,
termination
I think-
agreement,
Yeah.
number 14, termination.
Well,
agreement.
I think that's already in, we have that under draft, that's
Well, yeah,
the same as.
that's what I threw out there.
Yeah,
That's-
I'm good with that.
30 days with no cause.
Yeah.
For cause,
For these level
Yeah.
twos?
Yeah.
I
Something
think,
that
you know, and again, that's always something that's
organizations all-
negotiable if we have a situation.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Do we have to go through the pros and cons?
No, we don't.
No.
No, there was
I'm
just in
done.
case you guys wanted to go with that.
Well, yeah, you can,
So,
if you have thoughts in your head
Yeah.
after this,
That are-
write them down.
Okay.
The only thing I'd like to request
Or
is
it just
that,
Yeah.
I went through
Yeah.
the draft and there's like all kinds of issues with, the numbering through and.
It's,
there's
Well,
a
that,
Couple
yeah,
of sentences that don't
yeah,
make
well, that's
sense.
why my email, when I sent it, I said, all this, once we get these policies, we're good. What I don't want to do is, the old one kind of had stuff all spread around. I want to have some continuity here, so when somebody's going through it, it's easy to
Yep.
understand.
kind of like the work
Yeah.
policy.
Yep, exactly.
Yes,
Very important.
please.
I know. All
Easier.
right,
flow.
so
Everything is pros and cons.
I think we made good progress tonight.
Okay, that's.
You guys have a little work to do. We have a little studying to do. Should we plan another workshop? And we can kind of button up.
Let me ask, other than the address change,
Mhm.
so some of the takeaways are, we have an address change that you would like us to submit for our annual report for
Right.
Florida. And
Severed from the landowners.
I'm 99%
Let's,
0.9
Make
that
100.
landowners is not involved in
Okay.
our current articles or bylaws. So in terms of the annual report that's filed with Sunbiz, we're gonna change the address. And then in terms of our articles of incorporation and bylaws, you want us to
file current.
file the current, right?
Well,
But we're going to amend them
Amendment.
to.
Right.
First and then file.
Right, yeah.
And so that's what I'm asking about. So the amendments that we're looking to include in there, one of them was removing the Indian trails from the voting process.
Right.
And ensuring that section 5 is not referencing landowners and what's in there, but I'm pretty sure that's out. What other things, since the next meeting that we're gonna have is to go over our bylaws, go over our articles, are there other things outside? I think Kenny shared some comments, like, do we have other things that we want to focus on that I don't want to miss it, because doing the meeting, advertising, and then filing it with the state is a huge process.
I did notice a couple things in there that aren't necessarily district related, but I did see Carlos's name in there as well. So he may want to just go in there with a fine tooth comb and just.
Oh, we will.
all
Yeah.
that.
I just wanted to know if there's anything specific you wanted us to focus on, so we didn't miss it.
Can I make a suggestion that we have another, like, it's possible that once we have the draft service provider agreement, that there's other things that they need to look at in terms of their articles and their bylaws that they might want to amend. So my recommendation would be that you kind of focus on the things that you have to fix, but, and also talking with your sports boards and the executive board, what other things need to be changed. But before you actually go and file it, that you wait until we have the service provider agreement finalized. Did you get
I
it?
almost had it.
Because there might be something that comes up that you want to incorporate in your bylaws to protect in terms of the service provider agreement. Does that make sense?
Did you say legal, that you check
Yeah.
with your legal? I think that's important
And talk
too.
with
Yeah,
your
make
legal.
sure you have clarity and make sure you're following, 'cause, you know, you want to look,
Even
I
have them
really
look at-
do, Wendy, I want to say that I really did mean what I said when, at that opening, that I do want acreage. I think you guys have room for growth. I mean, you've got Westlake coming in here and other developments, and instead of having to drive 30 minutes to get to these fields, it's right here in their backyard. I really do want you guys to grow, and I really do want you to prosper. And I'm hoping I'm proving that tonight with working with you and talking with you. Make sure that all your i's are dotted, your t's are crossed, double check. You know, it shouldn't have been something Kenny found out, that your articles of incorporation and bylaws weren't filed. So I think those are important things you guys really have to make sure you're following up on. Like I said, Wendy, I think you taking over as president has made a huge difference. And I truly mean that 100%. I see a huge difference. I see your web pages are changing. I see how you're getting more involvement with the community and whatnot. So I think you're definitely taking the right steps, and you've got the kids in your heart to do this and grow this program. And I think you should continue it and just make sure that everything is going
You're covering.
Online.
The child in the
Online,
program. I
yeah.
definitely wanted to see it
Yeah.
prosper and grow.
100%. And I think we're growing and we're going to keep growing. And I think you guys have a really good stance. I know we took a real hard hit when we had, the economy bust out on us and we lost a lot of kids, but it's coming back. And I think you guys keep working on your reputation. And I think you guys will really start building it back up and getting programs. So I do commend you guys doing a good job.
You just reminded me about something. So the one thing we did not talk about is the non-resident
Oh, yeah.
fee.
That's always been, like,
That's, the board said, like, probably 5 years ago, we wanted to get that addressed.
How
And
do we
we
do that,
keep
though?
trying to push that down the road, but we really do need to figure out a path forward on that. Because
track
I
it.
don't think it's right that somebody from Westlake who doesn't pay taxes to our parks or anything is paying the same amount as my kid, when if I go to another place, I'm paying non-resident fees.
Yeah.
And they're having an impact on our infrastructure. So that is something that we did want to get addressed. and
Burgess
it's
is
not-
permanent is
Yeah,
fair.
hold
Yeah,
on.
something to say.
Frank, let
What-
Frank go for
Yeah.
this 1 second.
Just following up on that. Acreage Community Park South, our agreement with Palm Beach County prohibits discrimination based on residence.
But that's
And
now,
Except
that's
for
not-
north is, if that's where the primary program is.
and we're
We
not
can't-
discriminating,
can't
are
dis-
we? We're just telling them they need to
Can't
pay.
charge separate fees for non-residents of the acreage, I believe. For programs in Acreage Community Park South,
In
So that's
North
south.
County.
whatever relates.
Not
to Acreage
north.
County. No, not the north, or any of the other parks, that's
Okay.
different.
It's just the south.
It's the special rules for Acreage Community Park.
Because of FCT.
No, because of our lease agreement with the county.
We really need to.
Just through the
Yeah.
fair, just real quick, so actually Kenny and I have been talking about that because we want to try to figure out a way to put language in there. Where we can implement something, because there's even parts of the district that they're not paying for it, so.
Right.
And they should be, so through the recreation component unit, so we want to try to capture that as well. And there may be some ways to do that, but I don't know that we'll be able to implement it right on October 1st, whenever this happens. But we want the ability to be able to work with them to do it, to highlight who is in a certain area, because it's gonna be a pain for AAL or even for us to verify unless we really.
Well, if I can just make a suggestion, because we had this discussion the last time we were doing a major amendment to your service provider agreement. And at that time, we were going to look at different programs to be able to do it. But now you can plug in an address and on Papa and get the information as to whether it's in a city or not. So I think it
But
is
it's not
somewhat.
that, it's that we all share the same zip code. and
No,
whatnot. So
no,
how
but-
do you,
So if you, because Westlake says Westlake, it says City of
but
Westlake.
what if they're in?
And if they're in Loxahatchee Groves, it says Town of Loxahatchee Groves.
That's Santa Rosa, Sunny Urban Meadow. Like, so they need they need a
Yeah.
map to see who's in and who's out of our,
Yeah, how do we
yeah,
determine?
how do you determine that?
Did you ever look into that?
Yeah, there's software out there, but you know,
It's
right now, is it
incorporating
gonna be worth
Should
the
say-
money to implement?
I think
being that
Westlake.
software?
Westlake is like
So-
city with another one, yeah.
So that's where
Yeah, and then.
we have other.
Does Westlake have the same zip code?
I'm not-
Yeah.
Yeah,
We all-
So convoluted.
because
now.
it's the post
So
office.
if you have a
And they
district
just
map,
deliver to
Yeah.
that area. and
Yeah, it's
that's
the post
how they
office that
designate it.
delivers
But
to,
it's called like Westlake,
certain
maybe with the
amount
same
of-
zip.
but we have an issue with like
On a
Sunny
integrity.
Meadows that's
Yeah, but-
out west.
Yeah,
that They're not,
Active.
they're not they're not active and all that, so that's what we need to make sure,
right?
how to follow that. and how
Anybody,
you guys
anybody
can
in
follow
Santa
it.
Rosa Groves that don't get into parks, they would have to pay that additional fee. So what you would need, it would be a district map of active units and
But we have a
anybody.
list
that's
of
out
the
of-
taxpayers.
also keep in mind,
Yeah, but
we
it's
don't
a lot.
really actively sign up our people, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our members go onto a website and they sign up through the website, so
Right, and
I don't
so
know if
to
that,
program in the addresses then.
I don't know if it's programmable.
Can I just say
But-
this?
But it's,
I mean, okay, so my son played in Riviera Beach. When you go on there, you click resident, non-resident. It's kind of.
is it like an honor system
an
kind
honor
of?
system.
Yeah, but-
'Cause I was gonna say, we could do that.
Hang on a sec, if I put resident and I put an address in Loxahatchee Groves or in Loxahatchee or in Westlake, they're obviously gonna see I'm not a resident. So that kind of gets flagged. At some point, you go through when you're verifying your players, what their address is, and you have to get their birth certificates, you have to get different things. So you
That's
can
work.
verify at that point. I'm just saying that you can go on the honor system and catch people, at different points of the registration system.
Yeah, so now when I click in like 33470, it used to be Loxahatchee.
Now it's,
Now it's Westlake, sometimes it's
Yeah, I
Loxahatchee
think that
Groves,
happens.
sometimes it's just Loxahatchee.
yep.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And that's
If you're on the other-
create-
Yeah.
That's gonna create a lot more work for you guys too, so we gotta think about
It
that.
would be interesting if there would be something that we could do, like, sometimes you can import an Excel program. So if there's on the tax records, it shows who falls under Indian
We
Trails.
have that.
And it could go into an Excel and
Yeah, I mean. we
port it
can
over
get
into your
that.
program.
We'll
There might be
try.
something, we'd have to check your program, or you guys can check your program to see
There,
if
there
there's a
are
way to do
ways
it.
to do it.
Yeah.
It just is how much money and how
Right.
much time you can
Right.
spend.
Because how many are there
Yeah,
gonna do it?
and maybe just an
Yep.
honor system up front. is
Yeah.
what we
I
have
think
to
that would
use.
be,
But we
Right.
also have the tax roll and the Excel spreadsheet. It's easily to search. I mean, really,
so, and then,
we don't
and-
need a fancy program.
and then we have to figure out how they report it to us.
And then if
Yeah.
some team has some player that's a non-resident, they paid the fee and they're at North, but then or they're at North and then all of a sudden we have an event at South, then are they allowed to participate or are they not allowed to participate because we charge them that
That's
extra
different
fee?
than an event.
Yeah, an
Event
event
is
is
separate.
We wouldn't be able, you wouldn't be able to charge them extra for the event.
Oh,
but
for
they-
a specific
Right,
event,
yeah.
but if they were to practice or whatever on that, we could do that?
I'm saying,
Don't ask, don't tell. No.
I'm saying typically your practices are gonna be at North Side and games and events it would be at, the special
let's
field
say.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right,
That's
All
why
right,
we
I think-
separate.
I think it
I
was.
think we're good for tonight. What, can we schedule now, the next? Of course you may. Absolutely.
You'll have to write a card.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Good evening, Richard Vassalotti, 12839 70th Place North. I had a quick question, football people here in AAL. At least 10 or, well, first off, real quick, thank you for what you do. I know how hard youth sports is. I'm very involved with youth sports. I coached 9 years of rec ball. I coached out in Acreage, several years ago. And I know what you guys do. So especially running a board is very difficult. I'm all about the kids. I'm all about the kids' safety. I'm about all our residents' safety. Years ago, I'm retired from this fire station here, and it was probably 12 years ago, maybe. On your Saturdays, when you have your tackle football going out there, it gets crazy and it's packed and it's crowded. And at the southeast corner of the fields, near the scoreboard, there used to be a very tiny gate. We had an incident. I wasn't aware of this gate at the time. We had an incident there. We pull up our fire rescue vehicles there. We had a kid with a broken leg on the furthest field you could get to. Now I know that there's a double gate there. I made that happen. I made a phone call and I made that gate happen back in the day when Tim Wagner was here. And the reasoning for that was because, and this is where I'm getting to the point, is parents get a little hysterical when their children are hurt. We could not bring our fire rescue ambulance out on the field. We have a stretcher full of equipment. People are screaming at us because they think we're taking our time. We don't run. We don't want to trip. We don't want to dump our stuff. Have you had any instances over the last, I've been gone 5 years now, that anything that you can remember where you've had to have fire rescue drive out onto the field to pick somebody up?
2 years ago, maybe? No. Yeah, maybe 2 years ago, and I believe it was cleared where it was the first field as well. It wasn't like the
Okay,
third field.
which is helpful.
It was very helpful. They just, both teams or both players collided
Right.
and hit heads and had kind of open.
So my question is that gate still accessible? One thing I've noticed is that when there's very large events there, we also had stripings painted for fire rescue to pull up. Last time I looked, those were faded. People park on them. And we have to have a certain turning radius, obviously, and a way to get in and out of there. So my point is, maybe for another discussion, another day, relook into that, those gates and parking for fire rescue in that area. I know there were signs there. People, they don't care. They park there and they park on the striping. And I do know one instance when fire rescue came in there and they had a very difficult time ways back after I was gone though. And they mentioned it to me. So obviously the children's safety is number one.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know for me personally, the staff is very good about when people are parked there, that they're coming over and making them move. Or asking anybody to, hey, do you know who this car is? So
Right.
they can get them out, so they're not parked there.
And sometimes
Through the
you can
chair.
fit like 10 cars on those stripes or more, you know. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay.
No, you're good.
So anyways, that's my point. And how do we enforce it? I mean, obviously that's a PBSO deputy. I don't know how often they're out there or if they're writing tickets. I do remember one time they were out there, they made an announcement, move your car or you're getting ticketed and towed. But not everybody is going to.
It might be something that the Indian Trails, are we able to call and get them to tow it out?
We can't,
Yeah, we can.
can't tow
we
it?
don't have a towing contract currently, and
If they're
No.
parked in a no parking marked zone, you can call PBSO and have them.
And like I said, they look, last time I looked, I don't know how they look now, they were faded and not done, but it's just something to think about. Because what we don't want is something really bad, we can't get in there or drive our, especially maybe possibly fractured neck or something like that, and we want to get out there, get them to a trauma center or a helicopter or whatever as quickly as possible. So, but thank you for what you guys do. Thank you for allowing me to extend this very long.
Thank you for your card.
Thank you.
Just one question, just because I had somebody come up to me and ask me, when Flags for the Cure, are they under your umbrella for insurance or are they a separate?
It is.
They get their own event insurance, but they're also under Acres Athletic League, so I would imagine they probably fall both ours but they have their own event insurance, so I don't know if the event insurance covers them practicing or if that's.
Well, I'm more thinking, because I know somebody that injured themselves during the Flags for the Cure last January. And she wasn't aware of like getting help with like maybe the ambulance ride and stuff like that. I don't think your insurance would pay her whole, medical costs, but I think it would pay maybe her co-pays or whatever. But my question would be, does Flags for the Cure, do they have to report that to you? And do you report it to us? Especially because it's happening in Wellington now. So that's, I'm just curious how that works now.
A very good question. I don't think we've ever had any reports from Flags for the Cure of anyone getting injured. I know last year, I believe you may have one on the women's team, maybe.
Yeah, she messed up her leg really badly.
It was,
Yeah.
Here?
At Flags for the Cure in Wellington
Oh,
in
Wellington.
January, but that's why I'm
Didn't they
asking.
have separate insurance this year? Because it was in Wellington or no?
Yeah, they must have a policy that they.
they all put us.
So when so the
Them on fields without.
Yeah, sure, everybody on their field.
They also put us at work.
because
Yeah.
from what I understood, the reason they were staying under you guys is I thought for the insurance. So that's why I'm just clarifying. You know, you hear things. So I just wanted to clarify. But I also want to know if there's an accident and they're falling under your umbrella, are they reporting that to you guys? So I think it would be worth checking with them. Because I know this woman is looking to try to get help with some
I'll check
reimbursement
with Dr.
somewhere.
Hart.
Okay. All right. And do you can let the kids, you guys don't let the kids ride the golf carts, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good.
They have to be 18 with a license and doing league things.
Excellent. Excellent.
Good, sure.
Sorry, forgot I don't have the gavel anymore.
So I just want to point out that, I'm glad you brought that up, Richard, because again, we have been putting things in that area, that potentially could be obstructing those gates. So we just need to be really careful about that. Sometimes it's like a pile of sand or it's equipment. I'm so- Okay, so, but, the other thing is that I believe at one point staff was proposing that as a location for a cell tower. And I
That was that.
vehemently opposed it because of the
It was
fact that
actually just north of
Right.
that main gate.
But we don't-
It would have been.
we do not have the room. And we have a major problem that I keep bringing up, needs to be looked at with that parking lot, the way that it flows. So when you come in, you have an in and an out exit that is separated. And then the traffic does not always travel the way that the arrows are. And in fact, sometimes there are obstructions that forces you to go the wrong way, and it's very confusing. I think we really need to figure out the flow of that. The other thing is thinking about if somebody is coming from the south side of the park into that parking lot, and also if you're going from the north to the south side. The flow just doesn't work. So I don't know if we can have the engineering look at it or
Yeah,
what,
we'll have
but-
Jay and Rob.
it all needs to be revisited and new like arrows pointed and so
Just
that people
needs
know
to be
where they're
maintained
supposed to
in
be
general,
going.
you know?
Yeah, but right now it doesn't work. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
I think that's it.
I think we're good. We're good.
Thank you
Okay,
again.
until next time.
Did we decide?
Yeah,
We did
Or
figure out a date.
Are we gonna just shoot an email or do, because what are we saying? October 1st is when you're gonna start. So should we aim it for September or end of August?
I think you want to try to, if you're gonna have another workshop, sooner the better.
I agree.
Right, so our meeting is what, October or August
August 21st.
21st? So do we want to do it
2 weeks before.
before that?
Yeah.
So that only gives us a couple of weeks to get this all done, yeah?
I guess
Any-
about 2 weeks.
Well,
Yeah, I think they're gonna need more time, especially if they're filing bylaws and articles of incorporation.
So we want to say the week after our meeting. What's the date?
So the 28th,
You good with the 28th?
that gives you 6 weeks. And if you need to, we can
6:30?
extend it. If you need to, we can extend it, but make that our goal date.
That should be all right. I am trying to take some,
No. No.
please.
Just check.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay.
When did the board
August
approve
28th.
this? Entering into this? Who gave me this? The easement?
The memorandum that you have.
Did you give me this folder? Who gave me this folder? It's a roadway improvement easement for a unit of development. 19.
Elizabeth gave it.
I handed it to you.
You're the secretary.
I know, but
What
when
time
was
are we
it
gonna do
approved
that?
by
Are
the
we gonna
board?
do
6:30.
6:30.
6:30, good for you guys?
For the August 28th meeting?
6:45.
6:45.
6:45.
Yeah, 6:30-ish.
Okay,
Be sure to bring a tape.
okay.
Bring a hoodie next time. Meeting is adjourned.
Just let me, next time I'll tell him to shut it down.